sitting in 8th place though, so they have done some decent games so far. Weibo Gaming here, only 1 elimination so far. I do think that knock player in the water was due to Weibo Gaming, so that second point should be coming in. Weibo Gaming, their advantage though is playing into the late game with 4, but Vampire's here as well, and Vampire have been looking good this match.
Been looking a little bit better than the last match, certainly. Tony K close, hits the deck, dodges all the damage from Gap, but not from Sook, unfortunately. That's a quick flush out as well. So Vampire down on 3, trying to fend off this aggression from Vampire. Sook goes down, Schweppes lands the nade onto the target, a little bit far forwards and out of the zone. Kind of going to have a tough time here to try and go for this res. You've got IHC to worry about in the meantime as well. Demo is still there, and Weibo cannot fully commit here. Demo does go down, and that is going to allow them a little bit more breathing room, but Nuzi has taken the opportunity to move up to Gap, get this knock, and Weibo are starting to suffer now. Vampire take the high ground away from them, and Ming tries to repossess it, but it's not going to go well. Ravenfall goes right on over, but it's just taken down in time. Ming is there to save the day. Into the smoke he goes to try and crawl away, to try and survive, but Schweppes is low as well. And the duo from Weibo trying to piece it back together. It's looking good. Vampire on the last legs.
Vampire still with 2 though. They could easily turn this around. 1 nade and the numbers are matched. Nuzi's on that higher ground. He could have the sightlines for the nades, the DBS in hand. A little bit long range. That nade could have been disastrous. Does do a lot of damage. Isn't enough. Nuzi's already down on the top side, and Weibo Gaming will clutch it out, but they do lose 2 members. And with all that noise, BTR is here to look for more points.
Yeah, they've rotated back all the way from the southeast side. Goodness me, they're looking at third party again. This is the aggression that we've been missing from BTR yesterday, and they look for more. Find 2. That's 7 eliminations now that they'll be able to add to their total. Playing on this northwest side, they do have a little bit of open ground to cover, though, Zute.
All of these spearheads have been done with just a 3-man push, by the way. Even onto Sem 9, Satar sat back and was just watching for info, looking elsewhere. And this time around, once again, Satar sitting back, being the anchor player for the team to make sure everything is staying the same on the spot that they just left. And the spearhead being led by Superboy, Genfos, and the third player is just... Man, they're doing so good. This is the BTR out of day number 1. Just keep taking those fights, and they get a nice zone shift, too.
D+ on that western edge, just about still in on their 2-2 split across the road. A really nice spot there. I think Vibes might struggle here. They're going to have to descend from the hill, maybe have to regroup onto Baron's position. And BNS, Bino Storm on the east side, they're only playing as 2. I imagine that's Bigatron's next target. If they've been scouting this out for a while, if they've got the info, they know there's only 2 players in here.
Bino Storm realizes that the team from the north will most likely push them. And I think from all the noise that has been happening out of the BTR camp, they know it is BTR on the north side. They have the work cut out for them. Just the 2 duo defending. D+, that's a split that I don't mind, okay? That 2-2, close enough to help each other out. D+ making into the late game once again here with 4 players alive. And they get that zone right onto their backside on the west side.
Spray from Nanakuni over towards a BTR player, but he's just getting back behind cover there. Will be able to keep that under wraps as the med kit comes through as well. So right back up to 100%. Ready for the next scrap level 3s. Looking not fully healthy, but certainly still enough to keep them nice and safe. Vibes slowly moving on down to the north as they have to crest these ridge lines, start to go downhill. I'll play for this plateau here, and Doc is kind of right on the edge, but still very much in.
Vibes is definitely going to wait for the next circle before having to descend. And there is, on the side of Bino Storm, some positions open right across the road. But I imagine as 4, they're going to look to take a position outright. But just as I say that, one of the members gets caught, and that's not even in the zone. I don't think that's going to be revivable. Vibes, if they go quickly, they could maybe pick the player up and then carry him into zone and get that revive, which it does look like what was trying to be done here. Vibes definitely wants to keep all 4 players up should they have to crash in. The numbers advantage will be a huge factor as to if they're successful or not. And they got that revive, and they are going to reposition onto the safe flat hills on the top. Zone slowly closing still.
I'm taking a look at the teams that remain alive right now, and look, it's all of the top 3. So that bubble is going to move upwards fairly significantly in this match. It depends really on what Major Pride can do, because I feel like Vibes are probably going to have a better time of it after they've got this rares. They're going to have a little bit more power on the south side, but there is a difficult descent ahead of them that we've been talking about for a little bit now, so maybe they're going to be curtailed here with only the 4 eliminations in tow. D+ out on the western edge. Have been in this 2-2 split for a long, long time. It hasn't been punished, and to be fair, it is a very reasonable 2-2 split. I think you go for this more times than not, certainly. Arturas has been surviving for Team QUESO for so long.
Yeah.
Surprised he's made it to top 6.
I was surprised when the camera went onto Arturas. I was like, wait a second, QUESO, how did they get here? And then I remembered they lost 3 very early on, the very first team to cross the bridge. And he has still somehow navigated his way up to a top 6. If this was the old PMGC point system, those placement points would be much nicer. But here, you're not going to get too much. BTR on that north side with 7 elims already. Still 4-man team. Looking to take a chicken dinner here. It looks like BTR every day will get at least 1 huge game. And then a couple of consistent games throughout, keeping that point lead ahead. Even though Major Pride, Vibes, Weibo Gaming, they're trying so hard to catch up. BTR is going to try and definitely secure that first place by the end of the week.
I mean, it's excellent to see BTR back on this sort of form, so proactive in this circle. They are making decisions and committing to them. Really, really good stuff. Very dynamic. Ascend straight across the middle here for Vibes.
Oh.
They have joined BTR on the northern side of the road. It's interesting, they've made it to the dip, but have they exposed themselves a little bit too much? You've got D+ on the west, who have angles out their way. You've got BTR, who of course are going to be spotting this one out. D+ are going to make their move in the meantime. Major Pride wanting to hold this out. Nades on through, sent to the back of the rock, and that takes a lot of damage off Forest, but doesn't get the knock. And won't slow them down as much as maybe they would have liked, but it is still a little bit of a hold. A nade on back, and Fabian goes down next. Can they weather the storm here? Because the fire is in on that ground floor. Naomi lobbing another one out. Bobbles it short. Forest goes down. Nolbu close. It's 2v2. Naomi wants to get the heal off. He's looking to commit for it. And on the outside, it's Vibes. D+ struggling to get on in against Major Pride, but they get to the top floor. But at what cost? The burn is there. 2 players fall, and now it's just the 1 to try and move on through. Major Pride with 2. Hold on in the middle and will be cut down. Major Pride hold the tower.
What a defense out of Major Pride. I thought they were done for. 4v2, they hold it off. Meanwhile, on the other side thing, Vibes is up with 4, and take a look at how many BTR have. BTR is actually down to a 2-man. Vibes with a decisive game-winning play. This is that risk versus reward I was talking about. Influence Rage usually goes for the more consistent play. Vibes, though, they want the chicken dinner. When they have 4, they'll go for the risky play, driving across the battlefield, across so many sightlines, across so many players to take on the other strongest team on the north side, BTR, and they're out ahead. BTR down to 2. Same with the other 2 teams. It could be a Vibes chicken dinner.
Certainly could. What a way to kick off this day. Vibes have been brutally efficient so far. They were able to get some decent results on both of their maps of the first day, but they haven't got that chicken dinner to crown it. Is this their opportunity? They want to find it here and now, solidify themselves, and these 3 teams are the top 3 teams on the tables as well. The bubble is moving. It will continue to stretch up and up and up. But what is that nade coming on through? 2 players from Vibes, maybe going down and evening the score lines across the board. If they get flushed here, it's unlikely, but we could see a little bit more sent their way. Naomi down, and Dino's going to have to look for this res on the top floor.
Oh, the angle just barely out of reach from Nagon in that Wizard Tower. The full reset is there. BTR also get their reset, but they get a favorable knock as another player goes down. And yeah, now's the time to push. You get 1 more. You're not going to get much more advantage out of the Yuto. They go for the full send. I mean, that was really the only play at that point. They tried. It didn't work out. 7 elims, 4th place. Vibes with another full reset. The other 2 teams can't really push because they'll just run into sightlines of one another. So Vibes will be vibing with 4 players in the very last zone.
Major Pride only have 2 smokes to try and make this one work. I think you're right. This one will be looking solid to go the Vibes direction. But you never know. With those two off angles, Vibes are going to have to push forwards as well. Even with the positions they hold, this is stage 9, and it's going to close right about now. They'll start to push on the tower very, very hard. And where do you go if you're Major Pride? They are dropping those smokes out. The sprays over towards Bino Storm in the meantime. It's going to be Major Pride taking shots out their way. Nagon goes down first. I'm assuming it's going to be very, very soon for Nanokuni, but he's got that crate to play with. Just being tickled on the back. Gets a heal off, actually. So Major Pride might be going down first out of the mix. And second place laddered up for Nanokuni behind the crate. Looks for the shots around the edge, but it is bleed out time here as Vibes continue just to encircle this zone and close out a third strong match in a row with a chicken dinner to put themselves up and a high elimination count. They could be very much right next door to taking that top spot on the tables.
Yeah, if BTR didn't have a great game themselves, I mean, Vibes would have surely, I think, maybe passed them up. But either way, Vibes, that last push, I don't think anyone saw it coming, especially BTR. They probably thought they had everything under control on the north side. I mean, there was no teams on the north side. They took everyone out. But then Vibes from the south, driving past 3 teams pretty much, to just take that northern little ridge. It wasn't even a strong spot either. Immediately when they got there, BTR could have still won it, but Vibes got a quick 2 finishes. The nades, the Yuto was great. East, his name keeps popping up for me, and for good reason. The MVP of that match for the side of Vibes.
For Miracle Vibes, a really strong chicken dinner that sends down the hill to get to that north side of the road is what won them that match. I absolutely loved that hold from Major Pride on the tower as well. Off against, I think it was D+, to be able to play 2 players on the inside, those nades, so well placed from Major Pride. They did incredibly well to survive. They racked up a couple of points for that as well. And the fact that BTR, Major Pride, and For Miracle Vibes all alive late into this game moves the bubble higher. I've noted it a couple of times during the match, but I feel like it cannot be understated how impactful that's going to be as For Miracle Vibes put not only their chicken dinner crowner on today's performance, but their first chicken dinner on the board.
Oh, I'm lagging really bad. I'm lagging out.
What a performance there. Finally, for Miracle, Cam, they're able to get that chicken dinner. We were wondering if they were going to be able to do it. If I remember right, we were kind of talking about this during the end of that match too. Wasn't that the team? Oh, I mean, the way they were able to perform right there, being able to close out that match, that's what we want to see.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was literally them. And the very next day, they get their first win on the board, but they weren't even really needing it. They were acknowledging it themselves. They were getting so many good rounds. I'm just quickly scrolling through their previous performances. Second place with 9 elims, third place with 10 elims, second with 6, 2 with 11, 4 with 8. Sure, they have a couple of stinkers in there, like a 15-0, a 12-1, which is why I think why they're only just now probably going to be reaching more routinely into the top 3. But it's these constant, like, dynamic, hard Hail Mary swings that we're seeing this team make time and time again, like with the bridge play previously. Sometimes it doesn't work, but when it works out, it is a beautiful thing to watch. Absolutely destructive to the lobby.
Yeah, and something that the casters were pointing out that I really enjoyed too of that bridge camp that you're talking. Yeah, and something that the casters were pointing out that I really enjoyed too of that bridge camp that you're talking about. They barely got any chance, any time to loot. They decided to just go hold that bridge camp. Team QUESO decided to push up. They were able to finish off 3 players from Team QUESO, and then they went back to looting. So great awareness out of them, and that, yeah, I mean the the final push there at the end. I really enjoy what I see out of them. But another team too, if we're talking about those rotations, right, in those crazy swings, Major Pride. How did this team even get a chance to get 2 players into the middle and then take on D+? And even though they did get a little bit of help, let's be honest here, but from Vibes, but they were still able to win that fight against D+.
There it is. And there it is. Ooh. After game 1, game 2 of this entire group, finally, Bigatron are upset as the leaders of the lobby as For Miracle Vibes takes over them. Only 1 point lead, 1 point gap. But this is what we were talking about this entire time with Bigatron. They were slowing down, not by a lot, but just enough that they're now overtaken by the explosive For Miracle.
Yeah, we've been talking about are they going to be able to survive with those just 1 good matches a day? That's not the case because those consistent teams in regards to For Miracle and Major Pride are definitely catching up. I mean, already past them.
I mean, it was bound for Miracle to have that win finally, right? They were putting up such great performances, you mentioned before, Cameron. And this team, honestly, as I was saying before, one of the big surprise teams for me actually in this group. I mean, I know Mongolia puts out some insane teams like Stalwart Esports, IHC, well, maybe not in this tournament at the moment. And it's great to see there's another team from the region who can just really dominate. And they've been doing exactly that. I mean, even watching that three-way fight again of Miracle, Major Pride, and D+, which we should mention, D+ getting slaughtered in a 4v2 that they should have won against Major Pride. It's just we keep repeating these three teams over and over again, I swear.
Yeah, I mean, for some defense of D+, it was a 4 versus 2 on the initial run. And so you would hope that a couple of more of those frag grenades would end up inside the bottom floor where Major Pride were. But then there was the third party from Miracle on the off angle with very little cover from that angle for D+. So it's not like it was in like an easy fight for them that they just threw away. It was really, really chaotic for them. But yeah, Major Pride got a really big handout, I think, by Miracle's third party.
Yep.
Yeah. And like you said before, Seven, the fact that Major Pride even got there, and then to see Vampire go down to, I think it was Weibo.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Vampire, like, smart decision to hold them out, but it didn't really accumulate into anything. I think maybe they got one elimination because they got a knock on to, I want to say, like, effect for Major Pride. But pretty insane that Major Pride can bounce back from just having 2 players alive. And again, a showing of their consistency, if we're talking about that, out of teams like Influence Rage from yesterday. And Influence Rage, again, they've been consistent, but not good.
Not really
not
today.
Good way, right?
Yeah, they had a good Sanok, a good start to it at least, but 2 0s in a row. Like, this is actually a really big concern for the team that was, it felt like just barely hanging on to the top 3. I'm not a concern for them being in the bottom 5 just yet, but they were setting themselves up to be in the top 3, going straight to the Grand Finals alongside some of their other Brazilian, Latin American brothers. But I'm starting to get worried because whatever was happening for them is just like slipping away.
Yeah, and I am starting to get a little bit concerned because of the gap that's starting to be built there between 3rd place and 4th place. And then if you go down to 5th place where Influence Rage is at. By the way, Major Pride, their timing is so good. Dino was able to get away with that bridge camp that Vampire Esports was doing. Just their timing is on point.
Okay, well, it is time to head to a break, I believe, while we get things ready to go for our final Aaron Gill of the day. Or it could be casters because the match is already ready to go. So we're not even going to throw it to a break. We're going straight to the casters because we want the action going back to back. John Azute, take it away.
Some eventful Erangels. We've seen quite a few military circles on the south side of Erangel so far here in Group Yellow, the Group of Death. Seemingly the circles are going to be living up to that name. We've seen that South Island as well on Miramar, so we're having a little bit of a crazy time with these shifts in this group as well, and I'm really enjoying seeing how teams are dealing with it. I agree wholeheartedly that Major Pride's timing, probably one of the best in this lobby, maybe some of the best in the world.
Yeah, best in the world. Well, I mean, this is the world stage, so if they have good timings here, then the timings are good. But Major Pride, with 2 coming into the very end, I was surprised because I saw that bridge camp out of Vampire. I thought they were done for. They got across, and I thought that was it. But they still racked up so many points. Vibes, of course, started off the match camping QUESO, and then ended the match getting the chicken dinner. BTR showed their, signs of strength once again, taking all of those fights when they didn't have to and winning every single one of them. Besides the fight with Vibes, I mean, all 3 teams in the top 3 just really playing to their strength and being experts in it.
Absolutely, they showed proactivity once more, but they couldn't hold off Vibes for very long. Right now, Vibes are in 1st place, 135 points to BTR's 134. Very hotly contested, and as Seven said on the desk as well, Major Pride on 127 on that 3rd place bubble, still very close to those 2 teams above, under 10 points there, 8 points from them to 1st place. They are 24 points ahead right now of Weibo in that 3rd place, so the bubble actually increased in the last match. The last Erangel of the day to close down the central block run. We are going to be taking on match number 16, and again, it's a South Plane Path.
South Plane Paths, once again, a lot of skewed plane paths. Good thing it's happening on Erangel, the easiest map to navigate with a skewed plane path. If it was Miramar, oh boy, we'd hear some moans and groans from players. Teams are starting to drop out now. One thing that's standing out to me though is Weibo Gaming have slowly tried to make their way up the leaderboard, and if it wasn't for the fact that the top 3 have been so consistent so far today, Weibo Gaming might be looking better. So Weibo Gaming, they can't just have decent, consistent games. Weibo Gaming needs that big chicken dinner themselves here today if they want to break into the top 3. Influence Rage, of course, man, I don't know what's going on with them today. Of course, we're only a couple games in, but every game really needs to count if you're not getting the big wins. If you're looking for consistent games, if you have 3 bad games in a row, I mean, that consistency goes out the window.
Yeah, it's definitely I think you can have 3 bad games on a day, but you need the rest of them to be so strong, because at this stage, if you want to make that top 3 spot, which is what Influence Rage are aiming for, certainly should have been given their standings throughout the first 2 days of play, they need to be having not just consistent games, and Weibo Gaming as well, as you were talking about as well. They can't just be having consistent games. They need strong, really powerful games from now on. But then you run the risk of just taking those L's, because in order to get high scoring games, you need to take more risk. And that is what teams like Influence Rage have been seemingly a little bit more averse to.
Yeah, that gear needs to be switched soon. They got to switch it and be dialed in as well. It's going to be hard for them to make that gear switch and be successful, because the talent in this lobby is very difficult to overcome. And I want to give some credit to QUESO too. They're not really in the running, I'd say, for top 3, but they're sitting in 7th place, 82 points. I want to give them a shout out, because I think after day 1-ish, 2, I just recall them being in like 14th or 15th place. So QUESO has been laddering up a lot, trying to make a name for themselves. And if they ladder up anymore, hey, they could aim for that top 3.
I think that's still a little bit far away right now.
It is.
QUESO, though, 82 points to Major Pride's 127. That's a 45-point gap right there. That's very difficult to make happen, even with the number of matches that they have left. They've got 3 today and 6 tomorrow. That's 9 matches total. A 43-point gap over the course of that. You're looking at some real tough stuff. It's pretty much, I think it's 5 points extra per game, something like that, somewhere in that sort of region, over that bubble position. And with the consistency of the top 3, I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I just wanted to give them the credit, the acknowledgement before it becomes a thing, right? So then if it does, I could be the one to say like, hey,
oh, that's true.
I called them
it
out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I called them out. They were a team to watch out for. It's like with Major Pride, when we started really noticing things, and then they just popped off on the Miramar match yesterday, and they've been trailblazing it through today. So you got to give them, got to give these teams credit for the work they have put in, and you never know, they might show out at the very end. Of course, it is tough. It is going to be tough for QUESO. Major Pride in a much better situation, and so far we've seen a lot of shooting, no knocks just yet, as that circle has popped up. See some teams rotating in. Influence Rage making a fast rotation. I don't know if that's typical of them, but I think that actually fast rotation was towards their loot spot, towards Yasnaya.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look at it now. Okay, yeah, they're just trying to get to Yasnaya.
Yeah, they generally loot out there, obviously, with the plane path as it was on that southwest cut. One of the furthest drop spots for any team in this lobby right now. So they are just still making their way over there, but they'll be nice and safe for the time being in this circle. They've got a lot of time to play with, so I'm sure we'll see them plenty later on. The question is how much later on, because they haven't had the best of luck today. They've had their worst run of the tournament so far. They're still looking pretty healthy to stay in the top 11, certainly. I think I would be very surprised to not see them in the top 11 and into survival stage. But this is a team that was kind of a lock for most people's top 3 predictions coming into the group yellow.
Yeah. And honestly, they were not a lock-in until today. But that's just because of their abysmal performance and the teams right around them all popping off today. So it's a perfect disaster for the side of Influence Rage to really get knocked out of the top 3. It's not even the top 3 that kind of knocked them out. The teams like kind of below them have also all had decent games. Weibo Gaming rising up past them, and soon to be Brute Force might even rise up past Influence Rage.
Team QUESO, as you highlighted, have that potential. They got that firepower. Still very volatile around that bubble on 11th place as well. I mean, you've got 82 points for Team QUESO in 7th place, and you've got 71 in 13th place. This is a very, very small gap, all things considered, with the amount of pop-off performances we're seeing in this section of the field.
And one of the most notable gaps, as mentioned earlier quite a few times, is that top 3. It was so close, but now 3rd place, creating a decent lead over 4th place. And coming into the last day, the top 3 now, maybe the top 3 at the end of the week, but in what order? That's definitely a guess I would not want to take. All 3 of the top 3, man, so strong in their own unique ways, right? So I think it just comes down to who's feeling it more that day and which one gets the circle favor just a tad bit more than the others.
Be waiting for it. We're waiting to see it. BTR, we felt their power a little bit once again. The old dog learned a new trick or two in that last Erangel. They're rolling around that circle, happy to take those fights, and that's what you want to see from this BTR roster. Day 1, they said aggression was their game plan. They said they were going to keep it up for day number 2, but that proved to be false. Today, though, maybe a return to that form.
Day number 2, they still did decent. It was just that they did so well day 1 that expectations were high. They didn't have a terrible day 2 if you just look at the points gained alone. They held in there. I mean, they came in today 1st place still, right? So if they had a terrible day 2, it wouldn't have been the case. But right now, just 1 point behind Vibes. And looking at the map now, teams are rotating in. The Vibes team, they're still coming in from military base, and so they'll wait for that 2nd circle shift to make that big rotation. As the center of the map, not too compacted, but all throughout just evenly spread. I think all the teams playing towards a potential shift towards their side, and if they don't get it, they'll have a different plan in mind.
Teams starting to group up now. No real early conflicts to be seen. Looking at the split from D+, are we going to see another punishment on that angle? The circle goes very central here and isolates the south side of the central river. A lot of easy decisions to make. Difficult executions, though, will be happening on that central set of areas. You've got a lot of open ground just to the southwest of Rozhok, to the east of Ruins, where Major Pride and Vampire are. And you've got some difficult compound fights as well, more central on that area. The north side of Potato Hill's involved as well. There's a lot of interesting dynamics going to happen, and I think it's going to be a lot of teams struggling to execute on them.
School could be a major factor in a zone like this. We'll see if it keeps centering up right here. Many teams are going to be compacted now. How many teams are going to take the school apartments? I'm thinking at least maybe 1 to 2. Potentially even a 3rd team might just crash into school apartments here now with a zone like this. I mean, this is circle 2. This is a big circle. Things could change a lot from the center, as we are now getting casualties. 1 player going down here, and that's Major Pride losing a player and picking up a player as far as points go with the 1v1. Good pre-fire, though, and we'll get the finish. IHC getting the better end of that one. Major Pride down to 2 players.
Hey, it's the bubble team as well. They are looking to try and back up their teammate, and actually Divine steps a little bit too far forwards and is clapped back, but there's an off angle from Genesis as well. Potential danger for IHC. Nomi, potential to get rezzed here, but I think it's going to be really, really unlikely that you actually manage to make that happen. The crawl is just too far. Ziol, keeping an eye out for it. If Nomi is able to get to the next building, it's going to be way more possible, but no, he's spotted. Ziol steps out. And it looked like maybe he was hidden by the barrier there, by the little railing on the side of the building. But no, Major Pride down to 2. Actually, Naomi very, very low. Sunken playing relatively poorly for them. And this is the bubble team, so potential for that gap to close.
It might happen. But last time, Major Pride was also down to 2 in the Erangel match we just played. And they salvaged it very well, finishing in 3rd with a decent amount of eliminations, too. Could happen again. Could not. I mean, from this position on this side of the zone, very unlikely. But that last match, they lost a player crossing the bridge. They were deep in the blue zone. A military base was heavily occupied by then, and they made it work. So you can never count them out. Next circle about to shift here. As you can see, only one team taking the school apartments so far, just BTR committing to it. If the circle condenses once more, BTR should look to group up. D+, no more splits from them. Glad to see it. Might see a full-on crash of school too. And they're going to need the numbers. Vibes on the far southeast, just playing the circles right now.
Trying to get closer. And again, a very central circle. It is right on top of school as well. Weibo in that compound, currently 2-2 split. Potentially dangerous if Team QUESO decide to move up there. Also, Vampire out on the western side of it could pose a threat over in their compound as well. Newsy scouting up towards Sunken, trying to get a hillside position. Maybe a couple of down shots, because IHC are still locked in there.
Influence Rage making that big rotation now. They found a compound in the northeast. Are they going to stay there as BTR? Wait. I think BTR shifted away from school to take this position, and they run into Dormorte. 2 down for the side of Dormorte. BTR looking good here. They need finishes quite quickly, though, because this is a hotspot. Third parties could happen. Player of BTR goes over the top side. Superboy just finds the angle instead. Dormorte down to just Malloy. He's behind that car. Hasn't given away his position. He is found. Could get one knock here. Tries to go for that quick confirmation, get some damage in, but it doesn't come through. BTR could get this revive. Superboy, very low. Revive coming through. My question to you, John, is did BTR get a knock from inside school apps and push up here in ridiculous aggressive fashion, or were they looking to play there and ran into a team? I don't know if you caught it.
I didn't catch that either. No, that was really, really fast. I mean, it was aggressive from BTR, right? But this is another one of the top 3 teams taking a little bit of punishment early into this match. Sure, they've gotten 3 points for it, but maybe we're going to see a little bit more of a crunch back around that bubble, right? Because we've seen that bubble now extend to 24 points. So the question is, can Weibo, can Influence Rage, can Brute Force even start to eat into that point differential? Because vibes are still going. They are on that south side. They swung from that southeast side, and they're pushing up the Pachinki Hills on the east side, just to the west of Potato Hill, and they'll vie off with Team QUESO.
I'm watching the minimap, and Sitar branched back into the school apartments, so there is a likely chance that they got a knock and just made a ridiculous aggressive push. That push, I almost say, is not a good one because you are kind of really disadvantaged. Potential for third parties when that zone popped up. I mean, if that was the case, man, BTR is just on another level when it comes to pure aggression. One knock, and we push no matter the situation, and it's working. They lost a player, however, but they pick up 3 points.
That's a good start. Well, I was talking about how it's a great start to pick up those 3 points. For, I think it was for Miracle Vibes last match, just at the start, having those 3 points on board, really, really comforting, especially when For Miracle Vibes are only 1 point ahead of you. So they are now currently in first place as it stands, but with 3 players, their point scoring potential in this match is just that little bit curtailed. Still, the 2 players from Major Pride over in Sunken City are staying alive. Vampire have established a perimeter, though, on that south edge. Look at Newsy and Schweppes looking to bring the pain. Weibo get the central shift again, but now I think they're going to have to choose the side of the road to go to and stay there.
Yeah, they could keep a split, but whoever is being split off definitely has to be ready to just eject from there and group up. This could be Weibo's chance to not break into the top 3 because there is a point gap, but definitely catch up because Major Pride down to 2 players. Might not be able to put up many points here. We'll see how things play out. Vibes will have to rotate a little bit into the zone from the south side. And Vampire, I think, will keep that huge western split, which does give them a lot of control towards the center of the map outside of Weibo's compound.
Outside for the time being. See if they can breach that gap in the next circle or 2. DRS. Trying to move out and deal with SAM9. Depp close by. Snade send back their way. Not really looking for a scrap right now, seemingly. They've still got their backstop, so SAM9 just looking to put a little bit of pressure on. But they're going to have to move forwards fairly soon.
DRS also looking for that rotate. Oh, Sem9 saw them caught in the middle of two. Looks like Brute Force has taken the dips just north of Weibo Gaming's compound. And IHC trying to make a play, but not able to. One of their players is down. Actually, Major Pride with only one, so no, Major Pride with two. The other player has rotated in. Effect is here to hold off the backline, and Effect is good. Holding off 3 players right now of IHC. Demo's last one up. He's got that DBS in hand. Effect pops off the first aid, but Demo with a nicely timed shot around the corner. We'll get that full reset onto the team. Major Pride with only one. Fighting all around now as Rook pushes onto Genesis.
Major Pride out now. IHC going to have to leave, and that's going to be a tough task ahead with Vampire right in their way. The nades going back and forth, but not much hard aggression right now. Rook actually sending someone forwards along the ridgeline. Eugene is there. The nade onto Smile is good for the flush. Ichi for Genesis giving ground now. I don't think you could really realistically hold this one as far forwards as they would have liked. So they're playing on this south hill of Rozhok. They're going to have to descend near to school.
QUESO taking the warehouse we just saw as Brute Force was in the dip on the north. The only isolated fight really going on now, though, is on the northern side, Genesis versus Rook. And Genesis is in a little bit of a better and stronger position, but Rook have the player advantage if that player stays alive, that is, as he almost went down. Delta getting a knock from Bino Storm. That's happening on the south side. And yeah, DRS and Sem9 on the south side still have to fight their way in. That's a 3-way fight that might be happening right here.
Tam, nade over towards the position. Gianti goes half HP there. Heal's not coming through, and that's a good nade over the top if it's cooked right. Tam not going to go down, but Big Al behind is eating the punishment instead. Tam trying to roll forwards with the buggy. So is Depp. The split down the middle, and in comes a third party potentially from this northern side as Bino Storm roll up this hill edge as well. Mikiel still down, but they're looking for the res. They want to keep everyone nice and together, but Tam with a nade sent his way will fall as well. Bino Storm starting to launch through with their assault. Players are suffering now on Sem9's team, with only the one player down at this stage. Depp trying to stay alive here further down the hill. A low HP bar, wanting to get this heal off.
Bino Storm with a beautiful nade right onto the opening of Sem9. Sem9 driving around the buggies, just trying to get info, trying to bait out shots, and a great shot from Divine rips the player out of the buggy, and at that point, I think Sem9 is just going to have to give up this one and just find a spot in zone to survive in. And oh man, the nades are so good out of Bino Storm. Sem9 down to the solo. BTR have already moved into the new circle. The circle pulled west, so a lot of teams in the school area are forced to eject. BTR will lose Superboy here.
They are going to take that all the way down. That's 2 players now left for BTR. Team QUESO, Weibo sharing that central area. The shift goes out. Vampire happy with this one as well. They get a lot of that hillside under their control. Rook trying to take care of Genesis, but Influence Rage taking care of the remnants of BTR as well. 2 players go down to a nade and a third as well. It's Disaster Strikes as they try and take down the final member of BTR. Just the one left remaining as Genfos gets that heal off, and now it's just Little Boy up on the high ground. The spray downs are there. That's actually D+, stealing away a bunch of those eliminations.
Man.
But 4 points are in, and that is so sad for Influence Rage. It looked like they had a good time of it, but D+ roll in and ruin the day. Genfos on the off angle now trying to move up onto the high ground, spots the player, looks for the nade, launches it towards Lil Boy on the cook. Can he get it right? It's right on the ridgeline, but it doesn't quite tag the full damage. Instead, hits only a little bit. Genfos puts another one forwards, tries to scare him. The nade is cooked. Lil Boy with the DBS gets cut down, and Genfos claims victory.
Genfos absolutely demolishing the Influence Rage team. Unfortunate he couldn't confirm all 4 points, but he was the one to take down all 4 players. A 1v4, a true 1v4, as he was the only player up alive for BTR. He may have wanted a couple more points than the 5 elims they got here, but that's a highlight clip in the books for BTR, and he's not done yet. It's not just yet. He could still get something happening here as D+. A little bit worried to take on this force in the form of Genforce, and he's still putting out damage. He is still alive.
Goodness me, he has that one first aid left remaining. D+ trying to just get ahead of this one. Instead of taking the fight of unfavorable angle, they're going to lose Forest
gosh.
on the 4 position. This is Weibo with a third party. Osal as well, being suppressed on the angle. He has to move further up the hill, but it's finally spotted. D+ shredded down to 2 players. Sorry, Fabian is still active on the off angle, but he's got a fight to deal with Kenny, and it will not go his way. Kenny steps up and sprays him down. Just the 2 players from D+ are there, but another off angle shot comes through over to Kenny to take care of him. Everybody in the southeast side suffering. Beano Storm staying alive as long as possible. It looks like they've got all 4 of themselves still going.
BTR almost had the run right there. Weibo Gaming almost took down the player that took out BTR. He was 1 HP. If Weibo Gaming landed just one more shot earlier on, BTR could still be in this, but that is not the case. D+ will salvage up with 2 players on the east side. Vampire have been very quiet, but of course with the zones constantly to their back, they have been putting out very well established circle control, just pushing everyone away. So they'll stay alive with 4. With how many elim points though? 0 elimination points. They're going to need to pick up a lot more because they are in the 11th place.
4 Miracle Vibes as well across those fields to the northeast side of Pachinki. And they're going to have to get across soon as well. They'll have to figure out where they want to crash. As Rook moving in, so are the remnants of D+, who have managed to get 2 players back onto their feet, but maybe not quite as favorable as it could have been. Into the smoke, they're repositioning, they're just trying to find their way in with these vehicles. Genesis trying to hold the angle, and Forest goes down to it. Mernat's there, Weibo maybe unaware of their neighbor. I think they should have known at this stage. Maybe they were just willing to give this one over, but Mernat will be burnt away by this Molotov in the corner. If it spreads correctly, I think it might have just missed on the tag. I mean, the concrete keeping him safe there. Osal with a nade now cooked. Beano Storm trying to move in. In the meantime, Mernat does go down. Now, Forest can get rezzed on the angle. If Osal can make the cross, he does.
Osal with a nice execution with the molly first to stop the potential push. Follows up with a nade. Here's a nade from Team QUESO. Reyes with a good one to just stop the team of Rook pushing in. No knocks, however. And QUESO, they have 2 more stronger compounds to fall back to. That might be the case here, as yeah, they will concede the warehouse and let Rook push up a little bit further. Ooh. A 1-for-1 nade trade. You don't see that happen all the time. But that's QUESO with 1 player down on the left side, which is the isolated side. Weibo Gaming chimes in with a distance knock the 3rd party. Vampire, I see them in the distance in the back. They're looking to see if they can wrap around and maybe get some 3rd party action going on.
Get a position out in those headshot hills to the north of this compound. It's really, really tough to make these moves, but if you can get through whilst the teams in that compound are fighting, you're going to have a lot better of a time. You have to be worried about the teams further south, though. Look at the high ground that they've got. This is the compound out to the west that that Vampire have been holding for a long, long time. Nobody else has contested it, and with the roof position, they have such great oversight. They folded back in, not taking control out to the hills that Schweppes was trying to scout.
Also, I see Tony K on the south side outside.
Oh, I think we might have lost you a little bit there, Zute. Tony K on that south edge. Going to be looking to try and hold down the angle. Vampire still just holding those sidelines. A nice shot over towards 4 Miracle Vibes to try and keep them together behind the tree. Still damage sending their way. Beano Storm trying to move on down, and they are falling to the sidelines of D+ as well on the east side. 4 teams currently in that central compound. Just all of them vying for position. To leave that compound is got to be so, so difficult. Everybody just looking to try and clean out the surrounding area, but you just can't do it. A shift out to the west gives Vampire and Ravenclaw, crucially, that rooftop high ground angle. It is going to be a bloodbath here, and Vampire are looking to slurp it all up. Those points desperately needed at this stage to try and secure themselves, probably at this point, just into the survival stages. But everybody in the compound out to their east is going to have such a tough time to make this one work. It's going to be so, so difficult for them to leave this position. Vibes take a knock up the top of the hillside, and it is just a tricky rotation for them. The vehicle's providing little to no cover right now. Tony K on the high ground with that Mini 14, staying out closer to the blue and slowing them down time and time again. Shot through the windows. They've got a buggy, they've got a vehicle, but immediately you try and hop in that. The Mini 14 just lands and tap, 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 and there's very little you can do about it. It's going to be such a tough aggression push.
The push is still going on here. Vibes now forced to push in, and wow, shooting across the center zone, not able to find any cover. And this time around, the full send across the map from Vibes did not work. It might have worked that last match, not this time, as we are down to the last remaining 5 teams. Weibo Gaming hanging in there with 3. They lost one way earlier on. They could have 4 up, but with 3 is what they'll have to work with. As Sook goes down to the nade, Osao is the last remaining player for the side of D+. Can he push in here and take out the entirety of Weibo Gaming, or will he go for the reset onto Forest?
Eliminated through the window, but there's the cross and there's the spray down across the way. So many teams in this compound. I was saying it's going to be such a bloodbath to try and move on out. Osal on the inside, last player to stand, and from underneath, Guaimao with the DBS puts it to sleep. D+ eliminated. 3 teams still in this position, and Vampire have got this position on lock now.
This should be the big one for Vampire. And Vampire, they're a strong contending team, but I don't know how I feel about them, even if they get the chicken here, because their points are very low on the points table. And with that bubble gap being created on the top 3, it just kind of nullifies a big game out of Vampire. Of course, if they're shooting for that top 3 still, every chicken dinner that they could get will be a good one. And the zone blesses them here, blesses them heavily. I don't think any of the 3 teams outside of this zone stand a chance, as all 3 will have to be fighting each other on their way in. I like to see Vampire posture up here and take some more aggressive angles potentially.
Difficult. I think the 2 players up to the north are playing on a ridge line that sort of slopes just a bit away from this compound, and that's sort of the furthest forward they can go with the cover that they have, but they still have such controlling position. I'm looking, as you mentioned, at the top 3 right now, because their top 3 teams, for Miracle Vibes, BTR, Major Pride, didn't have the strongest of games. And Weibo, who are the 4th place team, are still in this one. A chance to close that 24-point bubble gap that sat at the start of this match. See how much further they can go, because they're going to want a little bit more than this. Smokes just everywhere, looking to be able to make these crosses, but Vampire chokehold across this one.
Weibo Gaming, the first casualty on this insane push out into the open. QUESO and Rook going at it. Weibo Gaming just need to survive up to 2nd place. I think that's the best they could hope for. The compound fight is blazing. Rook seemed to be getting the better end of it, as QUESO's down to just Big Lump Milo on the top 4. Weibo Gaming fully taken out there. They went for the cross. They went into the sightlines of Vampire, and here comes Vampire.
They are straight up into the wall. Tony K wants a piece of this pie. They know they need points, and this is exactly how you get them. They have so much utility. Look at that, 11 smokes, 20 nades still in hand, and there's a double nade coming on through for Tony K. He's on the outside and under pressure now from default. Where's the rest of Vampire? They've careened across this open ground, and they are looking to close it now. Tony K will hop on up, and that is everybody falling in their face. I wonder how many eliminations they were able to close down towards the end. They're happy with it. Well, maybe not elated, but to be fair, they were just waiting this one out, trying to get the maximum value here. Vampire will close it down as we kind of expected, given those final circles. There's a relief to find a performance today to try and climb further back up those tables.
Yeah, you could tell from their reaction that they wish they could have gotten more. But with the way the circle played out, they had to play it that way. If they got any more aggressive, it would have just been unnecessary risk that more than likely could have ended badly for them. As Tony K, the MVP, once again, they have had 3 chickens so far, and I swear, every single time Tony K has been the MVP.
I mean, he is, absolutely. This guy has been
a force
to be reckoned with. A force to be reckoned with. I mean, that was, I think, a lot from that nade that he was sent on forwards. There were a couple of eliminations that happened earlier as well for them. But yeah, absolutely. Such a great pickup to this roster. Came on to the Vampire team at the start of this year for their season. Performed exquisitely at PMWI. Obviously, with Vampire's performance so far here, it hasn't been as maybe noticeable, but this guy's a terror. You cannot discount him, no matter what Vampire are doing. Make sure that you keep an eye on this guy, because he is a force to be reckoned with.
I think the team sets up really well for Tony K too. I think every time there's an off angle to be had, they trust him to take it, and whenever a push, a spearhead needs to be made, the other 3 players are there to support him if things should go wrong. And man, what a match out of Vampire. They need a lot more of it though, but hey, starting it off strong on this one with a few more matches to go, Vampire could still bring it back.
It's going to be tough, but Zute's right. They can still definitely do it. They went into that match in 11th place, technically safe to make it into the survival stage, but I never would have guessed that coming into this event, that we would have our reigning champions at PMWI back-to-back years just struggling to stay ahead of the bubble and to stay into contention for the Grand Finals. But this is definitely a victory that they needed, not to mention gets them in a little bit of a safer place overall. Being that 11th place, as I mentioned, with Demorte being in 12th, DRS being in 13th, and those two teams going out early, that gives them a nice little buffer here. But obviously, as the casters mentioned here, Cameron, Vampire kind of wishing they got a little bit more, but honestly, they should just be happy with the victory right now.
Yeah, you're not going to be upset with the numbers that you got. I do appreciate that Tony K saw an opportunity to rush forward and get a couple more for his squad. Yeah, you can see here, they're not super elated at it. They know that they were essentially gifted that win. They just had to make sure to not throw it at the end. But you know, you take what comes to you. In 7 eliminations, we've seen worse. We have seen lower elim wins.
Yeah, whenever you see
about
7
some of the
play.
other teams. Are
What's
you,
up,
are you seeing that though, Rook, with the 11 eliminations? You were talking about this when we were watching the game too. This is another team that kind of wanted to create a bit of a cushion too, away from that 11th spot. Good to see that out of them. And going back to Vampire Esports, this team has had 3 chicken dinners now, and for them to just continue to be in the spot of, are they even going to be able to make it to survival stage? Are they maybe now going to push towards 3rd place? There's just too much inconsistency for me out of this team. I want to start seeing a little bit more consistency. I mean, if we even went back and look at their wins, they're never able to follow it up.
It's 7. They have 37 placement points with 3 chicken dinners. Yeah, they have the most chicken dinners in the lobby, but 7 placement points outside of their victories is not a good sign here for the team from Thailand, who honestly should be doing better.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Way too inconsistent.
I didn't realize it was that bad. That's really...
It's the
really
worst
bad.
ratio I think we have, actually. Yeah, it is the worst ratio we have.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, look, even at the bottom, Genesis have 8 and 16.
Wait, they had the lowest placement points outside of chicken dinners. Yeah, just with 8, they have 7. Like, not good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's we sort of been hounding on them this entire time. I think that they should make the decision that the second it hits phase 3 to stop using vehicles, because that's usually where the trouble arises, right? But it's so hard to like count them out though, because you'll see rounds constantly, and honestly, so much of it is on the back of Tony K. You'll see all of these rounds where he'll just create something out of nothing, and it's unfortunate that those sorts of rounds only happen every once in a while. But there's it's like there's this like level of magic that we're starting to really like see there.
Okay. I do like a little bit of magic, especially when I'm watching some PUBG Mobile. I mean, we're gonna harsh on Vampire. We're gonna hound on them because, I mean, if Michael Jordan, you know, was putting up like 5 points a game, of course they hound on him. One of the goats of, you know, well, I was gonna say the goats of all time, but that's saying like rip in peace. One of like the best ever. You got to be able to perform when it counts. But either way, I mean, Vampire. Yeah, I know, right? But either way, I mean, there's 7th place, Rook in 6th place. I'm actually quite surprised to see Rook be up at this kind of level right now, but really happy to see it. I mean, we saw him towards the north side, as you mentioned, 7, saying I noticed them, and I was like, how many limbs do they have there? Because I feel like they were quiet, and then you look, and they have like 7, 8 limbs, and I'm like, okay, this team is going a little bit under the radar, but getting themselves ever so closer to potentially breaching top 3. For you guys who are potentially looking to breach top 3 in your own way, you can go vote for PUBG Mobile to be the best esports game. It was brought up by, or nominated by, the Game Awards. Make sure you guys check that out. Voting's going to end on December 7th, so make sure you guys get your votes in. 7, did you get your votes in?
I haven't. I'm going to.
Cameron, did you?
Oh, instantly.
Yeah, thank you.
I already had a
Cameron's on
computer
point.
set. I already had a bot set up to do it for me.
Oh, okay. Well, 7, if you are going to go vote, make sure you do it on your Infinix GT10 Pro, which was born not only for professional gamers, but professional voters like you, 7.
All right, you know what? Let's talk about Rook a little bit more. Going
can.
into Miramar yesterday, yeah, we do.
No.
Right? To Miramar's? Maybe they'll be able to
Okay.
perform again?
We have to go to break. That's why I was saying that you can't. But you know what? After the break, 7, you're just not going to have a chance because you're going to be going to game really quickly. So we'll see you guys in a few minutes here. 7, we'll have time at some point in the show today to talk about them. And we'll see you in a few. All right, well, Seven, this is your chance. This is your opportunity to talk about Rook.
Now, let's talk about the fall. Yesterday, he was able to put up a good performance. Those 10 eliminations that he ended up getting yesterday. Today, it's not just the fall. Today, we're starting to see some of the other players also starting to perform, and that's what we want to see. That's what we've been seeing out of PUBG Mobile for the last couple of years, not just one player being able to carry. And then another one, that just out of Rook, right? Another one with Vampire Esports. I just want to deep dive a little bit more into this. We need to start seeing some consistency. You mentioned it perfectly there, Jason, in regards to their placement points. Outside of those chicken dinners, they're barely being able to get those placement points. We need to start seeing at least some good finishes because they got the fragging power. I feel like they just keep sending it. Even at the beginning of the day, what was it? They went south and they didn't have to go to the military circle, whatever.
It's all in the past. All that's matter is where they are right now. 7th place, and they're going to look to climb the leaderboards even further as we head into our first Miramar of the day.
They haven't got long left, though. That's the thing. It's going to be weighing pretty heavily on their minds. Securing their position in survival stage is also not a guarantee with the 92 points they've been able to achieve. 83 right now is the 11th place team, although the team below that, Demuerte, 72 points. So maybe a little bit more leeway there. But if they want to chase up to the top, you're right. They have to be more consistent.
Yeah, the bubble to get into that top 3, also the bubble to drop out of the survival stage group it's just anything could happen to the teams right dead in the middle of the pack. And I'm looking at the scores right now. So many of these teams are sharing similar amount of points, so that's multiple squads that could make it into top 3 and also could drop out and not even make it through to the survival stage. Of course, you know, with 2 more games and a whole day left, we'll get a much better idea by the end of the day as to the fates of all of these certain teams. And that top 3, it closed the gap just a little bit. Weibo Gaming a little bit closer to that top 3 now. I think what's dividing them is a 15-point difference. So little by little, Weibo Gaming are working their way up, and also little by little, Influence Rage is dropping further and further down.
Yeah, they are having a tough time of it. I mean, if they continue on this track, and they lack the consistency that we were praising them so heavily for over the last 2 days, there's a very real danger that they could be near that bottom bubble as well, remember, to not even make it to the survival stage if they stay the course. The bubble for the previous 2 weeks was 116 back in Group Green, and in Group Red it was 123. This is for the 11th place team. So that's the sort of measure that you're going to be looking to. Once you've passed that 120-point boundary, it's pretty likely that you're going to be seeing yourself up in that survival stage guaranteed. And obviously, more than that, you're going to be looking towards the top bubble, which is around that 180 to 190-point sort of barrier. So no team has managed to cross that threshold just yet. We've still got a long way to go. We're having a little bit of a hot drop here for Demuerte. Seems like we might be. Is this IHC? I feel like it might be as well. These guys love an early fight.
Demuerte and IHC into the hot drop fight. Here we go. Circle pops up. It is far south, opposite of plane path. This southern circle is on Miramar, just like every single time with this group, it seems. As the fight rages on now, the hot drop. One of the players of IHC, Alex, only with the pistol in hand. UMP for Korka. He's on the outside balcony. I think Demo can see him there from the third-person angle, and oh, that nade almost sails into Alex, and oh, the lean peek out the windowsill.
Ooh.
Almost. He still gets caught though. Zayo from a different angle catches him.
With the micro Uzi as well, Alex has got that sawn-off in hand. Pretty dangerous, especially when you're looking for the flushes. Opens the door, baits the shots, but no shots come on through. Malloy here on the high ground with the Scar. IHC currently doing better on this fight. Looks for the cross, Demo caught. And will be behind the wall, but that is a player down, and nade right onto his feet as well from the off angle. Godless keeps it in check, and Milky Way now repositioning. Looks to line them up with the micro Uzi in the alleyway, but he's caught too. And Demuerte looking pretty down bad right now. Furia trying to just get out of there.
Milky Way might have looked for the angle for more knocks, but he did find the confirmation instead. So at least 1 point, Furia in a 1v3 situation. The stairs are a good spot to hold a 1v3 though, as he gets 1 knock. Now he needs 2 more, but he swings out a little bit too wide there. The double push is good. IHC pick up 4 quick points, lose 1 player, but at least the fight is finished over quickly, as this circle there's a decent rotation for them to make still if they loot fast and rotate fast. Team QUESO, the only team to have rotated in, but I do believe QUESO is a team that loots Los Leones as well.
Duarte, 12th place right now, losing out the scrap. Really bad news. We talked a lot about that bubble, and I don't think we focused a lot on Duarte since day one. They were able to get some decent performances. I felt like they were going to be one of the better of the two EU teams. In fact, I called it out, and it seems like Major Pride took that very personally and really stepped up their game after that point. Duarte have had that fall off as well, and it has kind of been a little bit disappointing because these players, this team, really solid mechanical stuff. I just feel like some of their positions just haven't been that great. I mean, they're making some rotations that I think could be tidied up, and they are being punished for it.
By the way, if you noticed it, the viewers as well, we kind of just witnessed Beano Storm just land. They drifted from the west all the way to the eastern part of the map, just drifting their way in. So I had to do a quick double take. I look back on my mini-map. Yep, they just parachuted in. So we were seeing a lot of this on. I do feel like this PMGC this year in particular, teams are employing a very long gliding parachute versus gliding in the parachute for a vehicle and then continuing on. So this is a change for me, that's for sure. Sem9 on the northeastern side, rotating in. They'll have a straight shot into the eastern side of the circle and could even make their way quite central as the whole entire eastern side of the zone is clear.
Major Pride playing on the west, so the opposite end of things. On the south shift, they'll be moving past Minister Valle, close to D+ on their southwest side, with Chumacera currently occupied by Formarical Vibes. They have got a little bit of a crunch on, but they know this ground well. They'll be able to find the spot that they're looking for, I'm sure, with D+ seemingly looking to sequester themselves a little bit closer to that coastline, rather than pushing up into the hills to the south of Chumacera.
Weibo Gaming have rotated in here from Picado. Did some quick looting. It was a nice drop off plane path too, so they were able to loot up pretty quickly. And now they'll find more loot in the form of Los Leones. This is their first rotation position. I do remember them playing the same exact spot in a similar zone. So that is one of their favored positions with a southern circle, keeping Los Leones in. Right on the edge of it. So should the circle go west, they do have easy sight lines there. And if it shifts east, they're on the edge and they could wrap back around. BTR coming in from the power grid position. They do also have a straight shot as not too many teams have rotated center yet. It's just Beano Storm and Weibo Gaming, and Team QUESO are actually on the southern side of Los Leones, like far south on Los Leones looting.
Just trying to keep up that loot. Still a little bit of time left on this looting phase to look to break out of your position and start to claim territory that you want to hold later into this match. Stage 1 still halfway through closing and teams yet to make that break. Rook all the way up in that north side. DRS just moving past Hacienda del Patron now towards Graveyard. Genesis breaking south from San Martin. And it looks like Brute Force on the west, close to IHC, who were able to win out that scrap early on, remember. They lost a player for it, but they were able to get those 4 points. IHC by Monte Nuevo with Brute Force.
IHC did not elect to go for that fast rotation, and I can't blame them with only 3 players. Even if you get towards the center, short on 1 manpower, it could get difficult to hold a spot if a team challenges you. So Brute Force slides right in front of them. I don't know if Brute Force realizes IHC is still in Monte. If they do, then Brute Force's position is definitely more so of a trap play rather than just waiting for the circle to shift. Major Pride on the southwest, outside of the zone. They're going to take their time. Shots ringing out here. Genesis taking a little bit damage from Influence Rage. Influence Rage, this team has really not done much at all today. And it looks like they're trying to rotate heavy towards the center, and this is late. This is a late rotation towards the center, which is very risky.
Could be pretty difficult to earn the value from it. Influence Rage, I mean, you said they haven't done much today. Let me quantify that for you. They've got 7 points today. on the 4 matches that we've seen from them, which is very, very bad, to be honest. It's not what you want to be seeing from a team from the region that was able to win in Brazil. When you look at what Alpha 7 and Loops were able to do for their group, it's just a little bit lackluster right now. The 3rd day of play seems that teams around them have adjusted well to their play style. So maybe some credit deserves to go to the lobby rather than taking it away from Influence Rage. But with the rotation that they make here, it is central. They have got that spot involved as the northwest side between IHC and Brute Force continues to develop, and IHC seemingly suffering the most for it in the time being. But yeah, 7 points today for Influence Rage. They need more. If they get 7 points today, overall, I mean, sure, they get 10 points today, they get 10 points tomorrow. I don't think they even make the bubble.
It really comes down to this game right now to see what Influence Rage could do. IHC looks like, yeah, I guess Brute Force wasn't setting up a trap point play, and if it was a terrible one, as IHC already found an opening onto Brute Force, and Brute Force now caught in a 3v3 scenario. IHC looking to take down another here. IHC much more grouped up, Brute Force a bit more spread out. They have an angle advantage if that off-angle player in the far backside can find something, but they need to find it quick because IHC already found a nade.
Mind needs to have impact on this off-angle, but it's just not there. He might just even try and disengage from this. 5 points already found for IHC, likely a 6th with the flush going on to Neos if they can find it. Ado struggling, and Mind just ticking away on the health bar as well. Stage 2, so it's not dramatic, but it will always be there. It's ever present. A flex out from Alex and another spray onto Ado. They're looking to rack up 7 points on this match, and already it's a good result for IHC. Even if they went down here and now, they still have put in a decent number on the board, but they want to find more here because they're in 14th place right now. They're quite far behind DRS and De Muerte. They're looking to climb up towards Sem9 bubble on that 83-point mark. A current 28-point difference, but 7 points on the board. That's going to shrink that down to a paltry 21 points. And what's that really, Zute?
It's still quite a bit. But gapping 21 points on the bottom half of the leaderboard, much easier than gapping it on the top half. Because the bottom half teams, well, they're not averaging too many points per match, so you could pass them up. So points are basically more valuable. Northside Rook coming in very late on the zone rotation, given their starting spot in the looting. Kind of have to play this way. Meet some opposition, and they'll wrap around the other side, which is probably the correct play. You don't want to take a fight on the edge of zone, especially when the next circle is about to pop out here.
You see Mind just through Chubasada now. IHC much further out. I mean, seems like the Mongolian team, IHC, has spotted what Formerical Vibes are doing and thought, oh wait, we could do that as well. Just get 7 points on the board right at the start. See if we can kick things off well. They keep all 3 players alive. Playing on that western edge. D+ over in Los Leones. I mean, we've already had that Los Leones finish, and it looks like we're getting another one.
Oh my god,
Zute, 2 Los Leones finishes. Vampire were able to win out the last one. On the northeast side, it's not unlikely that they're going to have a strong position here as well, but they need to make sure they maintain it, because look at the teams descending on in now.
What are the chances? 2 Los Leones and a Los Higos for this group on Miramar. And that very hard eastern shift that we saw that could have even ended on the islands east away from the mainland. Miramar has not been nice to this group, but they're making the best of it right now. And D+ have crashed in. 1 player here for now for us. The rest of the team rotating in. It's QUESO on the defense. Fabian takes a lot of damage there on the crash, but manages to survive. As we take a look at East, or Vibes, they were rotating right there, but the fight is here. The third party from distance, Weibo Gaming, Wymao, can he find anything here? He could throw some nades too and even connect, but D+ getting cut down. It is all down to Nobu.
They really need to try and find some sort of response, but look at the off angles, you're right. This fight is just being crunched between the plates right now of Formerical Vibes on the west side, Weibo over on the east, and Nobu trying to move on through, but it's just not there. Artur stays alive, and Team QUESO keep all 4 of their players alive. D+ right towards that bubble as well. A bit of a risk now on the cards, but luckily, no team super close by them are looking to leapfrog just yet.
Weibo Gaming on the south side right now. Pretty spread out. they have a lot of opportunity to catch brief sightlines. The issue with that is even if they get a knock, it's not going to be a confirmed point. And the circle more central towards the north, so there's a chance that Weibo Gaming have to push into Los Leones, which is always difficult unless they get a nice southern shift. But if that nice southern shift comes out for Weibo Gaming, look just to the east of them. Major Pride is there too, the team that they're trying to pass up.
DRS, shots from IHC, who continue to look to frag out in this lobby. A rotation around, maybe looking to crash on this position as well towards DRS, sweep out this northern side. Alex moving forwards, Godless sweeping down low, Ziol going on that roadside. Godless and Ziol, the forward party. Rules did get res. Delta on the high ground ahead of them as IHC roll up and into the fight. Gyanti behind the rock has cover. Killer displaced from this location as well. And they're a little bit split. Can IHC capitalize?
Ziol tries to find that opening, really puts himself in the open right there with that vehicle. Gyanti will take down that player. Looks like IHC is just trying to keep it simple. We'll just take isolated fights, less to worry about. But with one player down before this fight even erupted, it really does dampen their chances of winning it. And now cut down to 2. They'll have to give it up. They'll have to play in the zone, maybe hope for some nice circles to bump up their points a little bit more. Problem is they gave that point away to DRS, one of the teams they're trying to pass up.
Real tricky rotations right now, but over in Los Leones as well, you've got some difficult choices to make. Are we going to see Major Pride take that 2 up, 2 down position that they took before? That's really weighing on my mind right now because it came back to bite them in quite significant fashion. They didn't really get the value in Los Leones for it last time. It's not often that you can so directly compare two teams play in 2 different matches in an urban environment like this, right? So it would be very interesting to see how these teams have adapted, how they've researched into the match, and how they change things in this day's game.
Also, this zone might be the same, but the plane path drastically changes things and where teams come in from and the timing of things. Like for this time around, BTR is already in Los Leones, and that might be more so due to the plane path than the adjustment. But either way, BTR don't want to, face the same situation again here. Genesis inside Los Leones, one of them get knocked, and oh, the angle from the side. Murnat will find an opening. I don't think the push is going to come through, though, as one of their players is getting revived. Oh, 2 more from the backside, so Murnat and his teammate are pushing closer, but yeah, it's not a full engage. And a re-knock.
Sent over to the back lines there, Federal. Kioski trying to hold down on the angle, but Murnat is still on the sidelines. If they want to keep 4 players alive, they'll need to position for it, but they're more worried about this glut. For Genesis on the off angle, Murnat steps out, gets that flush, stops Law from getting rezzed, and in the meantime, the rest of Genesis have all gotten back to their feet. They're 4 players strong, they're playing on the east side, there's no one at their back right now. Effect is on quite a wide off angle for Major Pride, so maybe a chance for that to come into play, but Influence just down to 3.
Yeah, Influence taking the position that Major Pride had the other day. And we saw it's very hard to convert from up there. If you get knocks, it's into compounds, and whoever gets knocked in the compound knows exactly where they got shot from, as Vampire taking the fight with Sem9. And oh, actually, it's Vampire with the position with the high-rise that we saw Major Power have. There's 2 different ones, but I think Vampire's in the one that goes all the way to the tippy top, yeah.
Major Pride still wants some high ground there. You can see Dino over on the angle. Effect still all the way back out to the southeast side, not in this zone. Vampire, are they going to go much higher than this? I mean, that's the last floor that Vampire can get to without having cover on the stairs, right? So maybe breaking that one out, trying to give a little bit of time. But Tony K goes too far out, gets spotted, and it's Rook to take the shots. I don't think he's been flushed just yet, but might be only a matter of time if he's crawling back down.
Yeah, it's risky to move too, because each time you crawl down those steps, like you mentioned, there's no cover on the sides, and each little tap will cause you to bleed further and further. And you can't drop down either, because if you're already knocked, you'll confirm yourself in a way if you drop down. Sem9 looking up there too. Tony K, such a big player for the team. They really do want to try and get this revive if possible. Looks like Ravenclaw is going to go for the run up, and instantly just peppered from Rook once again.
I mean, you got to know how dangerous this run is. They actually sent Tony K all the way up to the top, so instead of going down, they went up. Ravenclaw just throws it away. I feel like it's a little bit too risky to go for that push. You don't really have any smoke cover on those stairs either.
But it's Tony K.
That's true.
It's
Vampire
Tony
still have
K.
2 players alive, though, and that's Schweppes and Newsy. We'll see if they can do anything to try and convert Vampire's performance in the last match into a consistent climb up the tables. But right now, it's not looking super likely. Major Pride will not make the same mistake as yesterday. They haven't gone up and committed to that high ground. They're playing as 4. They're pushing in from this south.
Yeah, the circle has been shifting, by the way. It just keeps going into Los Leones, so nothing's really changing besides the teams on the outside having to join the party, join the Los Leones chaos here, as we do see the last player of Brute Force trying to find some way in. The Vibes team still right on the edge of the zone. We saw them rotating right there. I don't know if they're going to make a hard committal rotation into the deep end of Los Leones, but with this wrap, it might be it. Usually teams wrap around like this to scout out a pathing to shoot straight shot in the center, and I mean, you don't want to stop at the edge because you're fighting one team and then another as the circle keeps closing.
Shots across, and Influence Rage put up a point on the board as Major Pride lose 1. 3 players alive for Influence Rage still. Vibes trying to move on in. They are playing as 4 as well. A little bit split on the convoy. You can see 2 players a little bit further back. They get up to the apartment block. Have a little bit better time of the forwards too, though, because Genesis have spotted Apex up on that ridgeline, and they don't want to let him get down there. Doesn't have a vehicle, seemingly. Did hop out there. Major Pride diverting some attention to try and hold on this south edge. Moving on through the ground. Actually, just sending straight on through to regroup again. So 3 players still active for them on the buggy.
Yeah, Major Pride pushing in to Los Leones initially as a 2-2, which I do like because they take 2 sides of a strong road pass. So if it goes east or west, they already have a position. But after losing that 1 player to Influence Rage, they don't want a solo player off on their own. There's no revive potential, so grouping up as 3 is the play here. Brute Force made it in, but just on the very edge. Mind also with no more meds. Not even a boost ticking. He's probably running around to look for whatever he can. Some bandages, potentially. As we are going to head into the next circle shift. Taking a look at the teams. BTR only have 3 players. Major Pride lost 1. Vibes still with 4. They're on the south side on the edge. And the other big team to watch out for right now, Weibo Gaming, does keep their 4 players up. They've been here since the very first zone.
They are in a crucial position, not only in the circle, but also in the standings, right? This is a chasing team right now. They're 4th place. They're a couple of points behind Major Pride right now. With Major Pride down to 3. They're going to be a little bit limited, but in urban environments, I feel like it's just almost impossible to call these things always. I don't think anyone would have called Vampire yesterday. I don't think anyone would have called Bigatron doing as well as they did yesterday. It's so difficult to predict what's going to happen. There's so many different cases for what could. It shrinks onto that area that Major Pride have the south side of, but there's a lot of open ground in the middle of that.
Yeah, it is. And if I recall correctly, don't let that compound in the middle fool you. Those long hallways, so to say, it's very difficult to get into. And I think the sides don't even have hard cover. It's like just open from the sides. So we'll see in a little bit if my memory serves correct here. Back in my days, we didn't have too many Los Leones endings. This team, or not this team, this group have had a lot more Los Leones practice than they probably would have liked.
I mean, 1 is more than they probably would have liked. 2, though, that's pushing it. DRS getting across the road here with a little bit of smoke to soften the crash into the long houses there. Goonie spot rules, so the straggler is picked up, and Bino Storm take the point. They'll be happy for it. Team QUESO trying to move in, but Weibo have their straggler under control as well. Big Milo down behind the ridgeline.
Gap trying to secure some of these points, and ammo is becoming an issue. Gap only with 100 shots left or so in the M4, or not the M4, the Scar. And I don't think he's confirming nor knocking anyone with the DBS at that range. So discipline, control, and more importantly, precision will come into effect for Weibo Gaming as they are running low on the long-range utility.
Major Pride still in their central location. Influence Rage also trying to hold off against Sem9. Influence Range need a good match here for today's record, because as I highlighted before, 7 points from today, 8 when you include the elimination they've got now. Lackluster from the Brazilian roster. Rook spotting IHC will go down as well, but they already got the 7 limbs on the outside. Remember Zute, they've already had a fairly decent game.
Yeah, fairly decent. Like I mentioned earlier, points on the bottom half of the leaderboard are in a way more valuable because the teams you're trying to catch up to statistically won't get that many points in each remaining game. We'll see if that will be the case though. DRS still ahead of them by a sizable amount because that point gap is there. Weibo Gaming now in a closer range engagement. The nades are coming into play, but QUESO made it across with all 4 players. I like to see a 3-1 here from Weibo Gaming because this is the immediate threat. Even if the circle shifts more inwards, you want to take care of this team so they're not on your backside, and they already got the opening with 1 with that nade. And it looks like 1 player is shifting over here for Weibo Gaming.
They have got control of the north side of it. The smoke just to Reyes' left right now, keeping them safer from that angle. But you can see as soon as that starts to fade, it's going to be so much harder. In the meantime, over on the northeast side, Rook and Vampire, the remaining duo for Vampire, looking to try and res to keep 2 players alive, but an aid in through the window doesn't quite connect. It looks like there's only 2 players for Rook as well, but Schweppes is back up immediately. A knock sent back their way. There are actually 3 players for Rook as they managed to find that res as well. Spray down close by. Going to be very, very tricky to hold this. Back up the stairs they go, and Vampire continue to just try and survive in this Los Leones mayhem, but I don't think it's going to go that well. Was that an off angle? I think it might have been. Either way, Vampire going to go down now. The circle shifts down to the southwest.
Southwest circle makes things easy for Weibo Gaming. Now all they have to do is focus on QUESO. Elsewhere on the northwest, teams have to push in, and it is BTR. We are looking at BTR versus the side of Bino Storm, and very close by is still the duo of DRS. So this is going to be a tough one for these duos to push in through. BTR starting it off against Bino Storm in a very difficult complex apartment building to find any openings with.
Really, really tricky. You're going to have to fight for those stairs. I think there's a brute force player involved in there as well, potentially. Not entirely sure. No, it was just mine, and he's on the south side, so he's gotten away. Team QUESO in the meantime in the south, trying to make this crossing against Weibo. Have managed to find themselves in the building, but Reyes cut down on the sidelines. That is by Gap on the off angle. Weibo still have Meng up on the high ground in the back. You can see that maybe a little side swipe coming through, but they'll hear the steps, and Artuz is on the inside as well. Team QUESO throwing every trick in the book in this engagement. Sook, unawares, immediately turns around, not quite going to find the second, and Artuz lights them up. Weibo down to just 1 player in this fight. Remember, the off angle is being held right now, and they need a response. Big Milo finding both the flushes. There's a response, but they've lost 2, and this is disaster. Artuz from the inside. They didn't realize he'd got across.
That was a huge fail out of Weibo Gaming. 4v2 in that situation. And they lose 2 players, and they haven't even confirmed the 2 points yet. Team QUESO could still take out Weibo Gaming. This would have been a huge one for Weibo, but hold that thought as BTR now starting to really take that fight with Bino Storm. And BTR had 3 players only, and BTR will win that fight against the 4 Bino Storm. But of course, DRS was always close by and waiting and timed those shots, that third party, at the most opportune time, not taking any casualties besides the 3 that they already have.
I don't know if you noticed that in the middle of it as well. Influence Rage just went down with another only 1 elimination. I think it was either 10th. I think it was 10th place as well, so just the 1 point so far. 8 points today. Going into the last Miramar, they're going to need something special to try and keep up that pace. We'll see who can take that mantle up. Weibo, with their chance to close the gap, being taken away from them. Major Pride and Formerical Vibe, both still alive. But on the southeast side, one of the 2 of them is likely to be going down here. Just Ming remains for Weibo on their chase. They've only got 2 eliminations so far this match. And Team QUESO, I feel like we're seeing much more from them today. I think it's fair to say they have been performant in a way that they haven't so far this stage. So it's good to see teams starting to step up. Chile will be happy about that one.
I just want to say I called it first.
That's true. You did. I heard you.
Oh, it's not done yet, though.
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. They're really bad.
Oh, it's just down to Milo here. And, I mean, look at this zone. Weibo could have 4 up. This is the crucial game they're going to look back today and just really beat themselves up over, I imagine, as Rook still trying to fight in at DRS. not stopping anytime soon. 1 HP though, the DBS almost gets it done. And the last player, oh yeah, that blue zone really close by. I would advise him not to take any shots and just sneak in if possible. And it looks like he made it in for now, as Major Pride still in the game with 3 players alive.
And lighting up for Miracle Vibes as well. Contest for the second place spot starting to heat up for Miracle Vibes eliminated. Major Pride adding those 2 to the tally. SCM9 trying to move through those open sides that you were talking about, Zude. 2 players falling down. They're on the bubble right now, so Sem9 have an important match here. A spray down for Murnat, and a 3rd player falls. 2 players alive, poor Genesis down in 15th place right now. A strong finish here could put them back in contention, and Smile has more to do. Major Pride looking to play a backstop to this engagement, and Naomi finds the last player. Depp remains alive, and Sem9 can survive a moment longer.
Oh, Major Pride are going to pick up so many more points here too, because they're the only team with 3 up. Everyone else are solos. So Major Pride, even if things go terribly for them here and they get, you know, third party from each different angle, because they are kind of towards the center, I do imagine they're going to pick up at least 1 more elim points, if not 2, and ladder up some more on the placement points. And there is a 2nd floor to this building too. I don't know how effective the sight lines are from that 2nd floor, if there's a lot of windows that could be looked through. But this is the final zone. We're closing down to the middle, and the middle is in the wide open in that plaza.
Weibo able to finally get their revenge a little bit, but is it too little too late because Rook is still here? Rami able to get another point on board for them. And now we're on 4 teams alive, but look at the health bars. Brute Force and Rook both pretty lackluster right now on those supplies. Mind trying to survive out in the blue, but he's going to just get crunched. The Molotov there to try and just tick away and get the point involved. The Major Pride, they really want to try and climb up as high as possible. Mind goes down for Brute Force. SCM9 on the outside have managed to get deep into this game. Top 3 and a good result here. Rami denying the point, and it's just Depp on the outside by the fountain. He does have a decent central position, so if Major Pride make a misstep, could be dangerous, but you've got to imagine with 3 players, they're going to have a good time here. Spray down onto Nomi. Can't quite connect the knock. We'll be able to find it. No nades, no first aids either. They know he's here. And actually, Major Pride are quite close to the edge here. Naomi goes low. A nade over to Depp doesn't find what he's looking for. Depp is starting to give them a little bit of nerves to worry about. Naomi down, and Effect, the last to stand, tags on with a nade, needs to win the challenge, confirming the flush, and SCM9 want the bubble. Effect takes damage as well as he steps forwards. Depp could go all the way. It's the 1 player left for Sem9. They play through the edge, and Effect in danger. He breaks out with a nade to the wide side, and Effect sprays around the edge, tags a little bit more damage, keeps it under control. Bandage to go, spray around the side. With the bandage, he is going to be able to top himself up a little bit. Depp is closer to the center. He's got control, and it has to be Effect to make it work, but it's there! And finally, Major Pride close it down, but Depp was making it hard for them. They gave those 2 points over to the bubble, and they'll be happy to be able to close that one down, but my goodness, that was worrying.
That was one for the history books of PUBG Mobile competitive. A 1v1 ring around the rosy in the middle of the fountain. I don't think we will ever see that again, and what an ending that was. Depp played that so well, maximizing the points too, going for the conversions on those knocks, and he did it in a way where he didn't eat more damage. He did it in a very safe manner, lean peeking out the right side instead of over the top. Very good job for Depp, but honestly, the spotlight goes to Nomi and the team of Major Pride. That is a huge chicken dinner win. The teams ahead of them, I don't think got too many points. All of a sudden, Major Pride wanting to take that 1st place position.
And with Weibo having their power severely diminished as well, remember, by that engagement with Team QUESO, their chase is going to be a little bit slower now. So up to 4 Miracle Vibes, they'll try and push up, but I think they're still going to be in 4th place. Influence Rage, again, only 1 point this match. Not going to be a good time for them, but Major Pride have the best, have the pick of the litter. They're able to get a lot of points from this match, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be at the top of the tables.
I'm not going to lie, man. Major Pride has just been massively impressing me. The position they had as well in Los Leones, which obviously is going to be very difficult to win out from. As we were talking about this match, we're looking at, okay, there's like 12 or 14 teams left alive, and we're probably not going to see many go out until the final moment. But 7, the position that Major Pride had With the amount of teams surrounding them, it made it almost impossible for any team to penetrate their defense and to get into that compound they were holding.
Yeah, when we were watching you, we were saying, how are they being able to maintain their composure? How are they even able to defend this compound? And I feel like you said it too. Them being able to be in the middle and just having so many openings towards their compound, nobody was going to be able to just freely push in. But when teams did start pushing in, they were able to defend it really well, considering that they only had 3 players. Now, good job, Major Pride. But a big surprise to me today has been Rook, once again, being able to put up 7 elimination points, 12 points total, being able to back up some of the performances that they did have yesterday on Miramar. Hopefully, we'll continue to see that in the last Miramar. And then last but not least here, Team QUESO. A great push out of this team so far today. They ended up getting a chicken dinner earlier in the day, but they're continuing to at least mark up those points and keep themselves away from that 11th place.
Yeah, for you know, just to touch on Rook again real quick, they did have a win. 11 eliminations very recently, and then 2 third places before that. The only, you know, concern is that they have a whole bunch of double-digit placements as well, and even after that win, it was 2 double digits with very low eliminations. So there's a level of inconsistency there, but with this recent performance and how tight everything is in the middle, they're now up to 5th place. It's still a long climb if they were to want to try and challenge the current top 3 who are off in their own little playground somewhere like way far and away from everyone else. But as far as keeping themselves as far enough away from bottom 5, Rook have done a really good job recently.
Yeah, fantastic job, and even to be fair, Team QUESO, and I know 7 Up trying to bash it too harshly, but we see Influence Rage dropping down to 7th place. Brute Force as well has just been on a downward trend, but to see Major Pride push themselves up like this, again for QUESO in particular, this team looked like hot garbage in Americas. I know they already qualified through the PMGC. I'm not afraid to say they look like hot garbage. I think everyone would agree with me to say that. But the fact is they've come into this group and they have started to really perform and really be able to frag out, which I think for me was one of the biggest things I was worried about with this team.
Yeah, it was in the way they've been. I mean, going back to the beginning, right, when they were able to actually defend a compound, when that has been a big question mark for them, not even being able to defend a compound when they do have control of it. And going back to what you were saying in regards to Influence Rage, now I'm worried. I was talking about how they were being consistent. I was talking about how they were still able to maintain those top 3. That consistency has stopped, and we are not seeing any of the top-off performances. We're not seeing any of those high fragging besides just one match. I think they ended up with 12 elims. Now I'm starting to get worried because those teams that were in 11th place, that 11th place has now moved up. If I'm not mistaken, I think that the gap between them and 11th place was somewhere along the lines of 12 points. A lot of these teams that are within that 11th point, they are able to get those points in just one match. So Influence Rage, we need to see a reaction here out of them.
Yeah, it's at this point mathematically more than possible. It's, I mean, and with their new level of consistency of fewer than 3 points per round, it is now looking very likely, unless something changes again for Influence, that they could even be in the bottom 5, which would be absolutely disastrous for them, considering their position at the previous days at the start of today, being punching up there close enough with the top teams.
Well, let's not forget about another team out there, Vampire. Got to bring them up again because they won our previous match. Well, not the one that just happened, but match 4. Yeah. And then they go out with, I believe, 0 points in this last match. You get a lot of highs for them, considering they've won 3 chicken dinners, but a lot more lows, unfortunately, for this team who has bounced back into the second page here on our rankings. So they're potentially still able to fall out and potentially not even have a chance in the survival stage.
How do you have 3 chicken dinners? The only team with 3 chicken dinners, by the way, and you're on the bottom half of the leaderboard. To me, that's absolutely wild. And things can change again, illustrating the fact that the overall leaderboard is very tight, very tight in the middle section. 5th place Rook all the way down to D+ in 11th is like 12-20 points.
Okay, well, you know what? We still have 1 match left to come up today before we get into our final day of play tomorrow. So hopefully we can see some teams step up here. 7, he's going to put it all on Influence Rage if he was gambling. Me, I don't know who's going to win at this rate, but I know it's going to be a good match. So let's throw it to our commentators of John and Zute.
Major Pride able to win out the second Los Leones circle we've seen on Miramar. They've had good positions, I think, on 2 of the 3 crazy Miramar finishes that we've had. The Los Leones, the Los Hicos Islands as well. They have done pretty decently well, but they are now at the top of the tables, top of the pyramid. 148 points right now. The bubble sits at 141, so it is very close amongst those top 3, but they are continuing to just keep that moving up and up and up.
Yeah, Major Pride, I feel like out of the top 3 teams, all 3 of them still need huge chickens if they want to try and, you know, keep that spot, because the bubble, it may have widened a little bit, but man, I feel like the teams are hungry. We've seen QUESO climb all the way up from the depths of the leaderboards. Weibo Gaming just hanging on in there. Weibo Gaming could have done way better that last match, but they still converted a decent amount of points. And between the top 3, if you want the top 1, I mean, if you don't get the chicken, one of the other teams will, between BTR and Vibes. Heavy, strong teams that we have here in this group. And I mean, this is why we call it the group of death.
Absolutely. So difficult to make headway in this group. And I mean, it's demonstrated by the fact that Influence Rage have fallen off so hard, right? These teams are so strong. We wouldn't have even considered Influence Rage not being certainly in the contest for top 3 at this point, at the end of day 3, going into that final day. But right now, they're in the conversation for the 11th place bubble as well. I mean, this is a dangerous position to be in, and it shows you as soon as you show weakness, as soon as you start to fall off a little bit, that could be it for you. It can close down on you so fast.
Yeah, so I know you gave me the stat earlier, but now after 6 games, how many points has Influence Rage gained today?
They're up to 9 points, or 8 points today, I believe.
8 points in 8 points in 5 games.
Yeah, so if they can't get a good game here, they had 92 points at the start of today. They're on 100 right now. If they can't get a good game here, and if they repeat this performance tomorrow, like I said, they are at risk right now, because the bubble sits normally at about a 120 mark. Around that sort of area, you want 130 to be a little bit more safe, but to be honest, with this lobby, it could be even higher than that.
Yeah, I don't know the stats, but statistically, this could be the worst day performance across all 3 groups, maybe? Like, potentially? It's up there in terms of being down there in how badly a team does in a day, and this is Influence Rage we were talking. Maybe I caster curse them, John. I spouted about how consistent they were so much that they are now meeting the exact polar opposite of consistent. So
well, actually, no, they are being consistent today.
I mean, don't tell me it. Don't say that.
Consistently bad.
Don't say that. Oh, man.
So, you know, technically, you're still not wrong. So
sure,
you know
okay. All right. So no caster curse. It's just they're still consistent. Yeah.
It's true. Consistently making maybe I'm not well. It's really difficult to put a finger on exactly what is going wrong. As I mean, if it was easy to do, obviously they would just make that adjustment and they would be able to move forwards. But it's made doubly hard by the fact, as you highlighted before, Zute, that we didn't really see a lot of spectacular standout plays that stick out in your mind when you think back about what Influence Rage have been able to do. So you don't really have anything to compare it to. Yeah, what's different?
I honestly think they're just today. It looks like they're going more way more central, way more often. Whereas in the previous 2 days, I just recall them being patient on the edge and waiting it out. Then again, I could be completely wrong, right? They could have gone more central on the first 2 days also, and we never noticed because they just slide right under the radar, wait till that, later stages of the game, and then out of nowhere they have 4 players up with only 1 to 2 eliminations, and they get their consistency points. But this circle does help them out a little bit. Very far to the east, it also helps out Vampire. They're going to be starting out on the east side as well.
They have got Ravenclaw down as a south post outpost towards, beyond La Bendita, in fact. For them, so they'll grab a vehicle from there, move on in. We're going back over to this East Coast. We've seen this, I think, twice so far on this Miramar setup, and again, a late float down for DRS for another team in this lobby. They do like to stay in the air for a long time. You get great sight lines up there. Unfortunately, you just can't take shots.
Yeah. Oh, seen this before. It's a 2-seater. The 3rd seat on the hood of the car as he goes and picks up that monster truck. I'm sure he doesn't want to be riding the rest of the game on the hood of the car. That is a more dangerous position to be in than on the back of a buggy. So Team QUESO starting their rotation now. And yeah, huge point gap for top 3. So like 40 points for a QUESO to make it in there. But I mean, they were down in the dumps. They were like around 14th, 13th in that area, if not lower at some point. So QUESO doing a great job bringing things back. Many teams starting to make headway into the zone on the east side now, as you see them rotating here. Influence Rage are also rotating in. I don't know how much loot they have. You can see Federal with the UMP and pump shotgun with barely any ammo in the UMP too. And in a map like Miramar, you need that long range ammo, and you need a lot of it.
Yeah, maybe they're just going to, jump in with the car. But I'm imagining they're going to be sending up towards some of the compounds further north with the plane path as it was. They just needed to grab vehicles and get on the road because teams are still making their way on through. So hopefully they'll be able to find a loot spot further up north towards Junkyard and see if they can split that amongst them. Team QUESO, as you said, a rather illustrious record today. They have certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons towards the top of those tables. Probably done enough to secure themselves at least into the survival stage, which is great news for the Chilean roster.
Yeah, and I think survival stage is honestly a pretty decent, a finish, because outside of that, you have to be top 3 out of 16 global caliber teams. So getting to that top 3 is extremely difficult. Just making it into survival, I think a lot of teams would be okay with. That's Vampire taking in an early fight with D+ here.
Scrap for Tony K. I don't think they're all here right now. I think it's 3 players, and Shreps are still regrouping from the western side. Yeah, you can see them just entering now, crashing in, so they are going to group up. A nice, swift regroup on the sign of aggression coming on through just to the north side of Impala. So a couple of teams looking to take a position here, but D+ still haven't made super large amounts of headway into this compound. They have broken out to 2 sections of it now, but still biding their time, not going super aggressive.
D+, I think they're also kind of worried if the fight gets really messy, a third party could come in, because this is the center of the zone, and this is a power position as well. You see those giant rock formations right there. Whoever holds this compound can also get control of the rocks later on, should the circle stay or hover around this area. So third party is definitely a thing for both teams to consider, and I think that is why both teams are kind of playing it more safe, a little bit more distanced.
Just playing a little bit further back, but remember what Weibo were able to do with that high ground before, especially Sook on that area, just to the east side of that big rock, of that high mesa position. Those nades, he was absolutely brutal. So team's going to be worried about that for sure. So we'll weigh pretty heavily. And a standoff continues over on the central compound on that power position.
Many teams now have positioned themselves near the center. Oh, Milo taking a little bit of a fall. He should be okay though. But QUESO, Bino Storm, Weibo Gaming, Vampire, D+, all positioned quite nicely towards the central. And off center, we have a couple of teams too. Major Pride, Genesis, Sem9 rolling in from the southeast, Influence Rage rolling in from the northeast. Yeah, Influence Rage looks like they actually rotated from the south up through the middle of the circle towards El Azahar to finish looting, and now they're coming in from the northeastern side.
So they should be nice and looted. No more UMP and pump action on the loadout. Coming on through, they'll have grabbed plenty of vehicles. Brute Force playing on the outside right now, just near Hacienda del Patron, near San Martin, and pretty near to DRS. You can see them breaking a little bit further east, not wanting to step into that sort of, well, the very, very treacherous ground that sits around Graveyard near Picado and Minas Generalis. That valley between it is really dangerous to try and move through. So sweeping out to the east might give a little bit more problem towards Genesis, towards Influence Rage. As the seconds phase pops and we're going down, hey, it could be another Los Leones finish. You never know.
Oh, man, please not. It could be an Impala finish, which we have seen. As Team QUESO got a knock on to BTR, but BTR will get that quick revive. This southern circle shift is not going to be a good one for actually, maybe it might be good for Influence Rage. Maybe this might force them to play a little bit more on the edge side, and that might convert them more points in a little bit of a better game than they had today. We'll see how Influence Rage decides to play this out. As for the central zone, I mean, many things are already completely taken, and there's not a lot of strong power positions in the center zone. You got a few compounds, but that road and all the barren of fields is a dead no-play zone for many of the teams trying to rotate in.
Influence Rage making their way down the east coast right now, with the hillsides to cover them off. First contact that they'll find will be with Weibo, if they have those sightlines out that way, that is, if they break a little bit too far inland. They can just stay down towards the coastline. You can see Federal making sure he's behind the dip. They're being diligent. They are scouting. And obviously, it is a strong team, and we've seen them be up there with the best. So I feel like, in my mind, they have kind of shifted to be a team that doesn't really have an impact in this lobby. But you have to remember that they absolutely have been able to put up consistent performances. It's just today seems to be their kryptonite.
Yeah, today, with a record low performance out of them, as D+ gets very close, and now he hears the gunshots and he will turn tail and run away. I'm surprised Team QUESO, none of them were really watching that side to begin with and let that player get that extremely close. But they will hold down the position. They curtail D+. D+ will play at this road split, which is also a strong position still. Circle slowly closing in here. Many of the teams positioned up, and if you take a look, there's still all 64 players alive.
They are certainly all still going. Rook, I think they've taken a knock out in the blue zone. They rotated very, very late from the north side. Rami here certainly
What happened here?
could get rezzed. I'm not quite sure. I think it would have been play zone, because unless brute force crashed into them,
No.
it's just blue zone damage all the way up on the north.
Maybe definitely a vehicle mishap. I think he might have launched over something, because there's no way he took no damage and just kicked himself all the way down. But that is the case right there. Must have been a vehicle mishap. Yeah, maybe I cast a curse saying, hey, look, all 64 up, and nope. One player is knocked out there in the blue. A big circle shift here. Well, I mean, it didn't really shift anywhere, but this terrain, I mentioned it earlier, so much of that space is a no-play zone. It's just open fields with like some hay bales. I don't imagine any teams are going to move around in that circle. They're all going to keep continuing to hold their positions. So the big eyes for me are onto Weibo Gaming, which I don't think are going to rotate either. They might just stay in Impala, but Brute Force are going to have to find a way in.
Influence Rage have managed to sneak in as well around the side, the south edge of Impala along that road. Brute Force, you're right, they are going to be behind on that one. Rook are still, I believe, all the way out to the north.
Oh yeah, Rook's not here yet.
They are not on the map right now. I think they dropped or went over towards Campo Militar very early on and are still making their way down. I'm not entirely. They could have gone for a wide swing. I can't see them on the map right now, so we'll have to wait for them to make an appearance. Rook, similar to Team QUESO, actually, have had a phenomenal day today, right? These two teams have stood up in ways that we said of Vampire yesterday, that we kind of said of BTR in day one as well.
Rook always coming in from the north very late. Brute Force catches. No, he gets caught himself, taking a very long spray, not connecting, and Sam on the aggression already. Depp, he's fired up, especially from that last match, almost pulling off the chicken dinner 1v3. Depp is getting close. He's got that nade. Just trying to wait in here for more vehicles approaching, maybe, to go for that revive. Throws a nade out, maybe get some damage onto the knocked player. It's going to be a difficult revive for the side of Brute Force to make.
You've also got a player, 479, on that off angle. You see him behind, and a lot of the sightlines of Brute Force actually worried about him. They know it's a solo here, and Depp on the forward position. Going to make things tough. You could see there's the shots from that off angle, playing on the higher ground there, down to the southwest side. Tam opening up. There is a player from Brute Force just over this ridge to his right. It's Pre-pod, I think, opened up a little bit there, so maybe they know about this location. Shots over towards depth will land, and Mind going to break down low. Ado is down, but the rest of them looking fairly healthy. They've isolated one player to get a knock. They know this res is here, only one player active to deal with for the next sort of 8 seconds, 8 to 10, if they're lucky.
Influence Rage looking to maybe third party this. They hear all the commotion happening here. Sim9 gets that revive, and they're trying to disengage, but the tables have turned. Brute force now on the aggression, and they kind of have to because they weren't even in zone the whole time. So pushing forwards was the play, and they are executing it cleanly. Influence Rage very close by, but with the circle about to shift, Influence Rage might be a little bit more hesitant. That is not the case. They're pushing in. They find a first knock, and the circle shifts wide towards the north.
All right, they put their 9th point of the day on the board for Influence Rage. They want to find a little bit more, and the circle shifts away. Team QUESO happy. Genesis happy on that northwest side. Rook have made an appearance. Look, there they are on the north. You can see them finally.
Oh, yeah.
They are playing as 3 after their unfortunate mishap. We'll have to rewind the tapes to see exactly what happened there, but I don't think it was player-influenced issue. I think it was an unforced mistake, which is unfortunate for Rook to play as 3 because that is a really strong position as well.
It's a decent spot. Hard to get out of, but I mean, if you're in the circle at this point in this type of zone with hard cover, hey, I'll take it. And that is what Rook is going to be playing with. They're going to have to be worried about Vampire, though, because before we saw Vampire on that eastern compound next to the huge mountain or rock formations, they're not in the zone, and they have 4 up. And the closest target for them would be Rook.
That's true, but Vampire have to move, and Weibo are going to send out their way as well. So from this eastern side, Rook can stay hunkered down. The rest of them, they're going to have to move. They're going to have to get through open ground, and other teams are going to take their attention their way as well. So difficult maneuvers. I like Rook's position on the north side. Genesis, their major competitor. There's that ridge line up on the road that they can play up to. I think they've got a lot of potential here. Into stage number 5. But QUESO certainly, again, finding themselves in a strong central area. We saw it back on, I believe it was it Sandhawk, or was it was one of the Erangels, wasn't it, where they had just this slap bang central area that they had completely under control.
Looking to repeat that Erangel performance where they got that chicken dinner. As Sem9 finally going out. Brute Force did not confirm that point, though. It was the play zone that ticked it at the last second. And here's that wide swing to the northeast that you mentioned. Weibo Gaming meeting some opposition in the form of Vampire. So they'll just be happy with the edge of zone, but I don't think they're going to stay happy much longer because this position offers them no control. To the north, Vampire. To the south, Influence Rage. Weibo Gaming, I don't think they navigated this circle very well.
Bino Stormer there as well. Influence Rage, they've put their 9th point up on the board, sure. They're taking nade damage from Weibo in the meantime. Bino Storm just a little bit ahead of them. Nades downhill. Genesis holding out on this northwest point. You've got Smile as a backstop. They're playing nice and reserved here in the compound to the north side. No team's really looking to push into them just yet, except for De Muerte. Maybe a chance that DRS try and third party onto this, try and swing through that La Bandita crater, but we'll have to wait and see. Major Pride holding out on the south in the meantime against Brute Force, who are going to go all the way out. Influence Rage do spot Sook on the off angle, so Weibo a little bit dismounted there, but Lil Boy close forwards. Gap goes down on the rotate forwards, but there is answers coming through from Weibo. However, Vampire are chiming into the backlines. They have got sightlines here. Only one player for Influence before, and they put their 10th point of the day on board now.
Yeah, Weibo Gaming forced to make a bad push because they were sandwiched. They might have been forced to make a bad push, but earlier they could have set up way better. A huge mistake out of Weibo Gaming for the last match of the day. Vampire holds strong, and Vampire's going to continue to pressure this. And I think at this point, Vampire realized they're just high enough in the leaderboards that they could shoot for that top 3, but they're low enough that they're going to need to pick up a lot of elimination points and do it in a huge fashion as the team rolls up and immediately gets cut down. And Influence Rage down to just a solo player. Bino Storm heavily damaged as well. Vampires should look to get very aggressive here.
It's 4 points for Influence Rage when they go down. You're right, Vampire can get aggressive, but D+ going to start to circle out wide as well, so they have other fish to fry. They might have to chill out a little bit. Influence Rage, 4 points. It's their best game today, but it's just not going to be enough. I mean, that puts them up, I believe, to 12 points on today's matches. Again, if they repeat that performance, I don't think they're going to be safe. So they have to do more tomorrow. A disappointing result for the Brazilian team.
I just recalled how many points you've told me that they've gotten today before these points, and they got 5 of those in Sandhawk, if I remember correctly.
Oh, maybe it isn't their best game today.
Yeah, so they got absolute zeros in between Sandhawk until now. I think they may have picked up a point or two, but that's not my concern right now, as this is Influence Rage out and the other teams are still fighting here. IHC on the south side, not in the zone, and I don't think they'll find any decent cover coming into that circle on the south side. Vampire still alive, still trying to finish out this fight with Bino Storm. It was kind of short-stopped with the potential interference from D+, but D+ have gone back to that roadside. Bino Storm swinging out very wide, just looking to see where they could play at.
Major Pride also, the backstop to Bino Storm's position. Major Pride trying to move on with 3. They do get across. D+ can't quite slow down the first break, but the nades might find their way out this direction, as could the shots coming on through from Team QUESO in the middle. Ravenclaw spotted. Bino Storm putting a nade over. That's right on top of 2 players. They have to be careful, and that's a lot of damage sent out their way. Tony K and Schweppes now need to hold it down for them. Nagon pushed off the ridgeline. Schweppes can stay in to cover for the time being, but no, he's knocked, and Nagon can move forwards, but there's the catch for Tony K. Can he keep Vampire in this? There's still 3 players for them to get back up, but I just don't see it happening here. With Bino Storm still having that Okuni, Tony K, of course, he's going to win that one out. Needs to drop the smoke. Vampire starting to bleed heavily now. 3 players alive, but they are falling. That's Tony K to go out. Vampire eliminated. Major Pride can continue to play on this south side.
And Major Pride in a decent position here. If they can manage to push past D+, they're in a okay position to get more info, but if the circle goes anywhere center or towards the west, which it's most likely to do, they have a huge crossing to maneuver through. And D+ with 4, they're not going to fall over for free, not with that nade from Forest. Effect is down, only 2 up for Major Pride. Dino with the DBS in hand, trying to get some shots in. Not enough there, and Nomi, the lone survivor, can he make something happen?
I mean, we saw 1vx's happen before. Nomi on the wrong end of that one. Can he be on the right end of this? Spray. DBS around the edge. The first knock is there. A low HP, but the buggy takes him down. And it is going to be D+ taking out Major Pride. 4 Miracle Vibes, they're in the field, they have taken a knock, but they are in a position in the next circle, looking to try and keep the edge of it. I think they're just cutting with the next zone, with them, weren't they? They managed to stay alive in the foothills underneath Genesis as well.
Yeah, they're at a, right now the Vibes team, 4 Miracle Vibes, just trying to stay alive through the use of smokes. They're at one of those little shacks right there, or not really a shack, but a mix of hay bales. And yeah, as soon as those smokes run out, I don't think they're going to be able to keep all 4 up. They're in a very compromised position, especially from Team QUESO's Fortress, just to the east of them. They'll be able to outlive IHC though, as IHC forced to come in, and it looks like the smokes are starting to run out, and yeah, major damage being taken here.
Miracle Vibes right on that 3rd place bubble, being eaten alive out in the fields there. 1 point on board. I think they'll get at least 1 placement so far as well. But they will be looking to try and keep up with BTR, who just sit ahead of them right now. And the question is, can a team like Rook, can even Team QUESO put a big enough dent to go into tomorrow with a chance of laddering up into that 3rd place? Rook with 2 players alive. Team QUESO probably the most likely to get a high-value match out of this one.
QUESO only with 1 point so far, though. But with the next circle shift, I think QUESO will have to push out, and maybe they could get more. And man, Vibes here, just they're a pincushion for everybody. Everyone just taking some pot shots there, knowing there's points to be had. IHC, Zayol on the outside, and IHC out-survives the side of 4 Miracle Vibes. Not enough smokes right there, and too much focus with 4 players up. Everyone wanted a piece of that pie.
And hey, look at this. The bottom of the table's very, very alive right now. 11 through 15, all still in action. Some decent points potential for a lot of them as well. Maybe less for IHC as they do go down and out, so they will be staying on their points total, but you still got Muerte, you've got Genesis over on that north side, you've got D+ as well, looking to navigate over on that east, moving up the roadside to play close there. A battle for the bottom bubble as well will still continue to rage on as Rook are eliminated over on the north edge.
Teams are posturing up for the final zone here. The biggest fight here on the northwest near this compound. This compound has, you know, that deep dip to the west and east, so it's housing 3 teams here. The last 2 other teams a bit more further away and separated, also isolated. Demorte get a crate drop. That could come in handy here. As we head into the next zone shift, who is it going to favor? Will QUESO get a little bit of this favoring down there, isolated on the south? The fighting is going to bring out here. Genesis gets the first opening, does almost get that second one, and they do. Now, the side of Genesis looking to be in the advantage at this fight.
The high ground position on the roof just not really coming into effect onto Smile's position. He has a third challenge as well over on the sidelines. In the meantime, they have to displace the top of the roof position, and Smile might have just misstepped a little bit too far, but he makes it to the wall. Knows there's a player on the outside, wants to back up his team, but no, it doesn't matter. Ichi is there, is knocked, but can he stay alive? Can he get back up before Demuerte go for a third party? Capitalizing on the chaos, it's D+ to move across a little bit of open ground up into a ridgeline to give them a chance. DRS are eliminated, but Genesis looking to try and keep it together. Demuerte want to eliminate them because nobody's in this zone except for D+ moving forward.
I think QUESO might be in the zone just slightly at the previous compound that they've been holding, so that's a good circle for QUESO. QUESO also have one of those hay bales in front of them. If they were to do a 2-2 split, D+ moving on to the northeastern edge. Demuerte tries to go for that third party, got third party themselves as they were crossing over into the open. They're going to be forced back into the ditch, which was in the circle. Maybe a little overzealous there out of Demuerte. But with the solo, Malloy, yeah, he realizes he has to leave that ditch too because the full 4-man team of Genesis are going to crest over. He's going to see if he can find some special spot in the center that's going to give him cover from all sides. Might have found it. We'll see how long he lasts there.
Not very long is the answer. Big Milo able to pick up that point. Team QUESO, 5 eliminations now on the cards. Demuerte still have a 4 elimination 4th place, so a decent run from them and be able to survive underneath Genesis. As D+ seemingly starting to execute quite nicely here. The flush taken away, and that's actually Potro to be able to tap away with the Mini 14, denying the point to D+, adding it to the Team QUESO bank. 6 elimination as they move up the wheel, keeping Fabian safe for now.
And this zone is playing out perfectly for QUESO to maximize their points towards the end game too. D+ with just, oh no, D+ with 4 players, 12 nades, no smokes though. That's going to be very favorable for QUESO. Genesis with only 4 smokes in that ditch. They still get the circle, and there's going to be one more. Let's see who it favors this time around, and it goes up, but QUESO already has a forward position in play.
Artur's in the zone. He does move away from them. The question is how many of those sort of positions are available, because it's very unlikely you want to stack up all fully on that area. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Artur's going to be that forward linchpin. 2 players moving. It's Big Milo and Reyes in the vehicle. They are going to crash a little bit wide, dropping 1 off and diverting back up. Okay, so they're just playing around their vehicle. They know they need to get back and forth. Genesis taking shots. If you can take that vehicle out, it's going to severely hamstring Team QUESO's power on that south side.
Even if QUESO makes it into the circle with 4, this is the final zone, and center zone's kind of in the middle of both, but the third party might be there if D+ is going to instead just initiate the fight. I mean, D+ had the 4 up, so it makes sense for them to go aggressive. QUESO needs to time this third party well, but also to be careful not to get too overzealous and lose players themselves. QUESO posturing up a little bit, but it looks like D+ are going in for the kill.
They were in a way better position to get the res on D+. They've managed to pull their player back up, and now they're rolling in as 4. The nade over the top, a second knock as well, and it's going to be clean sweep across against Genesis, but Team QUESO have had time to move out in the open. Potro caught across, and Nolbu opens up well. D+, 10 eliminations now on the card, looking for that flush as well, trying to get those points, trying to get all the utility back into their banks, but they don't have any smokes. Can they hold out? Can QUESO keep this thing alive?
QUESO's gonna have to be playing with 3. That first player that got knocked from QUESO, maybe he thought he had more time to get an off angle, but D+ finished that fight way too quickly and he gets caught with his pants down. Poppy Potro will not be involved in this final fight, and it's a 4v3. D+ with the man advantage. And honestly, with the way this zone is, I don't even know if QUESO has too much of an advantage with the blue pressing on the backs of D+, but that's a good knock. Did it come out too early though? Because I think the revive could still go through.
Just be able to, but that slows down the pressure, right, from D+. It forces them to take a little bit of a breather, take a little bit of a pause, and that means that they're going to have to mount up, and they do have to move first to D+, especially with the blue zone now. With that extra little bit of time to move forwards, they have to go for the crash. Here they go, no smokes in tow, and they will not be able to find much, but they managed to make it up to a hay bale. Nades in hand for every single one of the Team QUESO players right now. They know the value of them. They're going to try and extract it from this lobby. Forrest is forwards. Hasn't taken damage just yet, but the nade over the top tickles him down to half. Another to follow it up, a third as well from the back lines of Reyes. They continue to lob them forwards, and it's Big Milo to go down first. This is a good start for D+. Reyes is low as well. He's been spotted over on the off angle. Can they get the res? I don't think they have time.
It's done. D+. D+ are going to take this 4v1. Arturos gets 1, gets 2. Hold on, it's not done.
Oh.
It was close. It got close, but what a huge win out of D+. They controlled that roadside, and they controlled it very well. They lost the zone towards the end, but that final decisive, not the final push, but that decisive push onto the side of Genesis was really what stood out for me for D+. They went aggressive, they went for it as 4, and then they won the 4v4, air quotes in the 4v4, because I think QUESO kind of threw one of their players away, but they still closed it out. Big game for D+.
Especially when you consider how close they were on the bubble. They were 11th place before this as well. 88 points at the start of that. I think they got something like 10 or 12 eliminations. That's going to put them over the 100-point mark and in a good position for tomorrow. Korean teams seemingly continuing to do well. We obviously saw Nongshim Red Force top the tables back in their group. This time around, D+, they've kind of been a little bit missing in a lot of these matches, but it's great to see that they have got this in their wheelhouse. They have done so well in that match, you're right. They had the most difficult rotation, I think, of the lobby to make, and they made it work.
Yeah, they controlled it very well. They took a fight with Major Pride too on that road on the south, and then they took out Rook on the north. And they also timed a nice kind of like third-party feint attempt towards Vampire, if you recall, and that forced Vampire in a difficult spot that made them a non-threat later on. So D+ really just doing a masterclass of the way that zone played out for them. QUESO got heavily blessed, and I think they should have definitely taken the match with 4 players there, but they lost one early. It still would have been close, seeing how the lay of the land worked out for D+ in that 4v4 if QUESO kept all 4 up. Still could have gone either way, but QUESO still picks up a decent amount of points on the most important day, right? The day before the last day, to really show where you will fall on the leaderboards and what you need to aim for.
Yeah, with a lot of those teams towards the top not having the greatest final match of the day, things are starting to heat up. A lot of resurgences over the course of today, and to close it out, the final one will be the team from Korea, D+.
Man, I don't know how to feel about D+ today, to be honest. Their aggression has worked for them, like you're seeing here in this match, and it has worked against them, thinking back to that 4v2 up against Major Pride. It's been an up and down day for D+, but Karen brought up a good question. Is tomorrow the day we see D+'s final form?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 7 that brought that up, but I appreciate you.
You get the credit of it. Forget 7.
I will take the credit. 100%, I'll take it. It's a really, hard answer, to be honest, because we're all liking, I can speak for all 3 of us, that we're all liking that compared to the previous days, D+ are going for more things. They're going for more opportunities. But we're also seeing that backfire a lot. So on this trajectory, especially finishing off the game in this way, and this was not an easy game for them to win. They weren't just sitting in the compound like some other teams were. They were having to work in from the edge with very little cover through multiple different teams. So their success here, maybe their feet are now finally under them, and tomorrow we are going to see a much more consistent, high-performing team that I definitely expected coming into this entire group. The question is, will that be enough to get them out of the danger zone? Who knows? But 24 points off of this game to end the day off is definitely a good grab for them.
And I think a grab they desperately needed to have some sort of chance to get into top 3. But again, as we have to mention here, Team QUESO, another 12 points. They were at, I believe, 100 going into this match, and 7. They're starting to build up some steam here. Are we going to see the cheese become even stronger in tomorrow? I was trying to think of some stinky cheese, but my cheese facts are quite limited.
I mean, for a team that's been able to take advantage throughout the day of being blessed, today alone they've gotten 55 points. I'm a little bit worried, honestly, if tomorrow they don't end up getting blessed, how they're going to be able to react. Yeah. Even there on that late game, they were still able to react a little bit too slow. I feel like they should have been a little bit more aware of the fight that was going on north and try to position themselves better. So there's little things here and there. But another team that I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow, no, it's not Influence Rage, Jason, even though that is one of the teams I'm thinking of. It's going to be Rook, because Rook also had an amazing day 3 here today. They ended up with 55 points for today alone, and now they put themselves, I mean, if we're going to be counting some of these teams that they could possibly make a push for the top 3, which is, I personally feel like it's going to be very unlikely, that's one of those teams, Rook.
I think that's fair.
No, absolutely. But this middle section, I'm starting to get... I wonder if that gap between 11th and 12th place, the 14-point gap already, is going to mean that we're going to need to see some like big games out of anyone in the bottom 5 to try and get out of that. I'm looking at DRS. They've had a couple of good games today specifically, so there's always a possibility there. But unlike, you know, last week at the very least, there's starting to be some clearance between the teams around that sort of break bubble of being eliminated versus having a chance in survival.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting to the point now after 3 days of play that we're starting to see like which teams most likely will be out of the bubble and won't have a chance to break through into the survival stage, and likewise for teams to potentially break through to top 3, because there still is a decent gap between, you know, quite a few of these teams who are maybe 7th, 8th place and 3rd. So it pretty much comes down to, in my eyes, tomorrow 7 of, if you're going to want to qualify for top 3, you better make a very big play. If you want to get out of that bottom of the bubble and get into the survival stage, you got to make multiple matches tomorrow, which can be ever more difficult considering that pressure is just mounting and mounting every time you don't have that good match.
That's the main one too that you just said there, multiple matches, because a lot of these teams, I mean, Team QUESO and Rook aside, a lot of these other teams have been able to have just maybe one match. They haven't really been able to follow it up. I can think of right away Vampire Esports, right? Team that has 3 chicken dinners. We've been pointing out their placement points throughout the whole day. And then after they get a chicken dinner, they're just nowhere to be seen. We need to see a little bit more consistency. Give them credit though. They did end up getting good elimination points here in this last Miramar. Maybe we'll start seeing that again tomorrow.
Well, obviously they still have a chance, but I think in my eyes for Vampire, stay out of bottom 5. Stay out of bottom 5. We're going to head down to the stage, though, as we do have an interview coming your way. I'm hearing it's going to be Federal from Influence Rage.
As day 3 rolls to an end, one more day looms in the distance for all of these teams here in Group Yellow. And we start to see this shift in the leaderboards as we start to see dramatic changes, not only in the top 3, but also the bottom parts of the ladder. But for some of these teams, like one of these teams I have over here, INF, a team that was holding the 2nd spot place in the 1st and 2nd day, and now slowly but steadily losing it. Now let's talk a little bit with me. I have Federal. Let's talk a little bit about your team here. So your team has been one of the most consistent teams in the last 2 days, but today it seems like there's a little bit of a struggle. Can you share with us what is going on?
O seu time se deu muito bem nos primeiros 2 dias, né? O que aconteceu hoje?
Bom, a gente passou por diversas dificuldades em relação ao spot e rota do avião, né? Nessas 5 últimas partidas. E a gente não conseguiu desenvolver nenhum dos nossos jogos direito, então... E com o mal, o 16º nas 2 primeiras play, eu acho que deu uma pequena balada ali que a gente não conseguiu desenvolver mais ainda o nosso jogo, né? Mas é isso, amanhã vamos vir com tudo aí pra pegar esse top 3 ainda, porque dá, né? 40 e poucos pontos. E a gente já deu o comeback mais difícil que esse. E é isso.
Well, we had a few difficulties with the airplane routes, with dropping spots. Several things came against us, especially the first 2 matches. They really hit us really hard. It was hard for us to come back from that, but we are seeing what we did wrongly today. We know there's like 40-something points for us to get back. We have done comebacks bigger than these before, so tomorrow expect us to do it again.
I mean, speaking of comebacks, INF is one of those teams that's known to play very, very bombastically with over 10 eliminations per game. But it seems like this PMGC, it seems like you guys only have had one game, I think, with a pop-off match. So is playing a little bit more safe a strategy that your team has implemented for PMGC?
A Influence normalmente faz muitos kills, mais de 10 por partida, mas a gente viu que aqui tá um pouquinho diferente, né? Mudou a estratégia.
A gente não mudou nosso estilo de jogo, né? A gente tá aplicando tudo que a gente aplicou nos outros campeonatos, mas infelizmente não tá vindo muita kill pra gente. E também a gente não ganhou nenhuma play, né? Normalmente quando a gente ganha muitas plays, a gente vai com muitas kills. A única que a gente ganhou foi com o Caio solo, então não deu pra pegar muita kill. Mas as kills mesmo não estão vindo, também tá roubando muitas kills nossa. Mas a gente não mudou nada no estilo de jogo e vamos buscar isso aí amanhã, fazer mais kill, ganhar play e é isso.
We haven't changed our play style. Luck hasn't been that much on our side, especially when we're facing off another team. Some of our kills have been taken by other teams, so that kind of stuff has been adding up. But I think we are going to do it better tomorrow, so expect us to do more kills tomorrow.
I mean, that's exactly what I expect on day number 4, and I think this is definitely something that we can expect from all the teams. Let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. There's still, you guys, what are your odds? Let's think about your confidence. What are the odds of you guys making it to the top 3? And what do you think that INF needs to do to achieve this goal?
Amanhã vai ter chance de chegar no top 3. E o que vocês têm que fazer para alcançar isso?
Com certeza, eu não vi a tabela 100%, eu vi que tá ali na média dos 40 pontos, mas como eu falei, a gente é inf, né? A gente já deu comeback mais difícil que esses. Então amanhã a gente vem com tudo aí para trazer esse top 3 ainda para nós. E é isso, vamos com tudo amanhã.
I haven't had a chance to see the table. I think it's about 40 points. But as you know, Influence Rage is going to give everything tomorrow. We're going to get all the way back there. So expect to see the best of Influence Rage tomorrow.
Expect to see the best of Influence Rage tomorrow. Thank you so much, Federal, for that interview. And for now, this wraps up day number 3 of Group Yellow. And I have to say that it has been one of the most challenging teams here for the Giants over here at 2023 PMGC. Whether or not we can still see the top 2 hold on till the end is the question. And whether or not the teams at the bottom will still remain at the bottom is another mystery for us. For now, I'm going to toss it back to the panelists to wrap up the day. We'll see you guys tomorrow for more 2023 PMGC. Good night, everyone.
Okay, so some confidence from Federal, obviously realizing what went wrong for them today and hopefully can fix some things tomorrow. I thought I was having like a big headache. I was seeing like double here, and we're gonna have Nomi top of limbs, top damage, and I thought for a second we hit the winner on the slot machine, but we got effect here with the most assists in on the right.
The third slot.
The third slot.
But yeah, this just shows that not only how strong Major Pride have been today, just sort of slowly ramping everything up, but how also Bigatron slightly falling off, but Doc coming in for MV as the MVP on the day. Loved their play, for not just this group stage so far, but specifically today. We all know the bridge. We all know hanging out on the bridge, like Batman. Of course, if Batman doesn't have grenades, but you know, you get my point.
Wasn't it East yesterday as well? Like we've had
it might have been.
I think we've been MVP like 2 days in a row. Then we had Lapar on day 1 from Bigatron.
Yep, you're right. It was for Miracle that had the MVP yesterday.
Okay, can you say that again? I just love to hear about how I'm right, 7.
No.
You're right, Jason.
Thank you. Oh, wow. It's so weird being told I'm right for once. But no. Yeah. Anyways, moving on from that. Obviously, still 1 day of play left to go. Influence Rage, yes or no question 7. Will they make top 3 tomorrow? No. Will they make it into the survival stage? I'm going to change up the question completely.
Survival stage? Yeah, top 3 no.
Okay. Cameron?
I'm going to agree with that. I think even though we've been criticizing Influence for not really having any of the pop-off, super strong, like gigantic plays, today was definitely an anomaly on how poor it went for them. So I expect them to do at least better going into tomorrow. I'd be really shocked if they ended up in the bottom 5.
Yeah, I'd be shocked as well, and a little bit sad, to be honest, with the legacy Influence Rage has been able to build up for themselves over this last year, especially within Brazil. But unfortunately for them, they need to prove it tomorrow, because people aren't going to remember the end. They're not going to remember everything you've done before this. But that does mean we're pretty much done with the day. But before we end things off, hopefully you guys at home, 7, I'm pretty sure I've seen you ordering one of these bad boys, the Infinix GT10 Pro, because it was not only born for professional gamers, but also born for people of your stature, 7.
Yeah. Interesting take there.
I think stature is one of the safest ways. But you know what? I've seen you dominate lobbies, and I can only imagine those bold
Gameplay,
actions.
that's what you meant to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those bold
Skill.
actions. I saw you in person in Poland. I can only imagine what you do with one of these devices. Well, you know what that music means? It's pretty much playing me out from an awards show. That's going to end off our third day here, PMGC 2023. We'll obviously be back tomorrow for a final day of action in Group Yellow. We're more importantly going to find out which 3 teams will get straight through the Grand Finals and which teams will survive to fight another day.